a walls amongst the line. There's a rare few who think outside the box together for the crew. To break the equations, not bound to any rule. Exposing to the world the universe's own view. It takes the talent of the craftsman, it takes the mind of the fool, to make the vision realize energy and matter in a duel. To a break, to a duel. The old man Bills was running through his head. Cheryl probably got it hiding under his bed. Penny up to Annie making power for days. Don't listen to a word that the straight no says. Mike building batteries that power a ship. Victor comes and talking math, that's the wide spiral dip. Sean chucking plasma bolts a mile long. Sheila on the video making tone trumpet prongs. Bernie breaking matter, they said it couldn't be done. And to all the people in the chat, I know you're having fun. So it's time to spend your Saturday with the dope and old man Bills.
Oh man, screen's messed up today. Hello everyone, welcome. My name is Nathan, otherwise known as Old Man Bills. What's up, Joe?
Hey, what's up, everybody? Happy Friday.
Oh man, we got a good show today, bro. So I'm gonna tell you right now, man, there's some things that are popping up, some pictures that you can't unsee, and it ties in with exactly what we're doing. Okay, resonance, string theory, and then it ultimately goes into how hydrogen's working and how we're actually building a sun out.
Yeah, man, that's exactly what's happening. I'm gonna be building a sun out in my bedroom if I don't remember to blow that out.
Oh yeah, no kidding.
There we go. Now she's cooking with fire.
Yeah, it's actually it's a resonance theory, man. So I got a few little things, man, I want to show real quick just so we get on the same page here of what we're looking at. And they're just little short clips. So give me 1 second.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I'm grabbing it right now. So we can see this. I don't know that I can play much of it, but we'll go for it.
In different modes, harmonics. Likewise, our little strings can vibrate in different ways. 1 ripple, 2 ripples, 3 ripples, and so on. And the different vibrating modes behave on our scale like particles of different types.
Okay, so that's all I want to play that because we'll get in trouble. But I want everybody to understand this, so I'm going to show you a picture. And this is where it becomes important. Just what he just described, right? Now, if you take a look at this, you can see the one in there where it has 3 in it. And if you take the center point of every one that comes in, you can do a triangle in there. You could do a hexagon in there. You could do all the shapes. What it is every time that it comes into the inside is a point, and every single one of those points gives you your geometry.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's a fundamental understanding of string theory of why it ties into exactly everything that we want to tie into. And then the harmonics themselves, you saw them go in and out, in and out, in and out. That's exactly what that Rab is doing with Sean. It's going in and out, it's pulsing, it's doing the same way, but there's a specific pattern to this. So I got another one to show. And I'm going to mute this one. I just want you guys to just understand the patterns here. You see how it moves in and out? This is what they're building in order to get the most. Look, just look at the shape right now.
Right. It's parabolic and helical.
What did they say that when you take the music and you play backwards and forward at the same time, that you come and you tie them in together just like this? Okay, it was coming back and playing itself again and again. That's exactly what this is doing.
So a form of reverberation.
There you go. So
yeah,
that's what the string's actually doing in 3 dimensions. When you start to look at it, it's not this one little string going. No, we start to look at this. And this is how it ties in, because they are making nuclear fusion reactors built just like this. So watch, I'll play a little bit more so you can see it. When they all build it out, it looks funky as heck. But that right there is your fusion reactor.
Okay, so more or less what they're doing in that circumstance is they're rather than self-organizing the plasma high density state and depending on the self-contained rotation, in that case I guess they're adding the geometry to the vessel itself to stimulate the rotational vectors of the plasma, and then they're treating it like a river and using probably laminar flow type of circumstance to just keep it moving.
So yeah, exactly. What they're doing is they're replacing the resonance with a structure that looks like the resonance. That's why they get it for a very short time that it works, and then it stops working.
Mhm.
Because they're not flowing it in and out like a string.
So I already kind of know the reason why, and it's super fascinating that you pulled up that particular chart before, the one with all the intersecting wavelengths.
Mhm.
Because now, and I refuse to divulge other people's work, without their express permission. So I'm not going to go into the details of it. However, I was talking to Eighth Sinner like at some length, in fact, yesterday of all times, and he shared with me a small snippet of 4 different waveforms that all had a somewhat of a relationship. And now here's what was interesting about these 4 waveforms is that they were all slightly different frequencies in proportion, though they were in tune. Okay. And they were all also different amplitudes. And what I noticed is that no matter how long you continue down this chart, so to speak, of measure, the the sequence is terribly complex as far as what intersects at what points. Okay. It could be charted out, but it's repeating, but it's complex. What's crazy about it is that no more than 2 of the waveforms ever cross at the same time, yet all of the individual waveforms are capable of crossing at some juncture. Okay. But the way that it works is like a camshaft. And that's what I was kind of explaining, because if you were looking for a point of total coalescence amongst all the waveforms, it was never going to happen. And that's when I realized that it was literally a camshaft, which is that particular shape and timing that of the differentials that will just simply never allow for it to occur. It's why your motor doesn't misfire and blow up, because it keeps the sequence and keeps the things from firing, so to speak, at the same time, destructively. So, and that what you just showed seems to be right along the same lines there. Now, I didn't see what the interaction points looked like in that, as far as whether there's more than one or 2 interacting at a given time, but it definitely had that sort of geometry to it, as far as like it wasn't really seeming to fall into phase at any point.
Well, there's a reason for that, and it's because we were looking at it in only a couple dimensions. You see, they're taking a strip out of this thing, right? They're seeing it as a 2D model, flat, and then trying to build out of that. So they see a strip going around it, okay? Because it would look like rings if you cut it in half, okay? Like the picture behind us. But when you start to put the geometry into it and make it a sphere, what happens is the frequency over here is different than the frequency right here, which is different than the one right here. So they never cross, but they're always going on, and that's the in and out shape. That's how this theory works. It's more than strings, because when you put it in a sphere shape, now it operates a little bit differently. That's what most people can't get over. They're stuck on the little vibrating string. By the way, the only way that chord and that guitar ever got turned on is, and you'll see it from old timers when they tell you about this, is the tuning fork going like this. When it does that and those 2 are working, You put it right on the guitar string, and the guitar string starts playing. But when you put it to the box itself, now you can get the air to hit it and start to turn it on, just very slightly. Okay, you're always turning it on with resonance. That's the point.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, but you know, you got to bear in mind also that like what you get out of your tuning fork sound wise is going to be exactly what it is and what you perceive.
The exact frequency.
And anything else that you don't hear, okay, that's not a form of interference. It's capable of inducing anything within its reach, you know, into sync with it, as long as it is in tune with it. So, you know, realistically, that if you keep on wrapping the tuning fork over time, that guitar string is going to ultimately fall into a state of oscillation that's probably in capacitance with the initial. There could even potentially come a point in time, you know, where depending on what the capacitance level of any given thing is, right? Where let's say the potential of capacitance is higher in the string than the tuning fork, which it probably isn't, but hypothetically, you could technically probably induce the string into a higher state, you know, into a higher energy level than its you know, source that brought it in the first place, and actually have a reverse effect as far as then you bring more energy to the initial source of emission. So, you know, it just depends on what the relationship is.
Frequent, that's the amplitude that you're looking for. That's what you're saying. So it's not so much the energy that goes in, because I think that's a misunderstanding by people. The energy is interference to the frequency. It's distortion to the frequency itself. You'll notice this when you tune anything in resonance. What happens is when you get the amplitude really high, the resonance is everywhere. Everything's hot to touch in the room, right? When the resonance itself, the amplitude is real low, it's garbage, right? It doesn't do anything, but you still have the same amount of voltage going into it, okay? So it's acting as distortion for it, covering up the amplitude. But when the amplitude is super high, you can turn down the energy really low, because the amplitude of that resonance frequency is where the energy is. That's the true power of resonance. That's where the energy is. And by the way, you can turn on more than one coil at one time when you use a ZVS driver. If I set up one here and one here, and I just keep the frequencies out of the resonance zone of each one, they're like two ships in the night. They don't even see each other. They'll operate separate coils, turning each one on at each time. And you could do 4 or 5 of them. So if I wanted to make, say, a resonance key, I would take a number 2 winding that's really long, and then I would place number 1 coils on it in certain spots, and I can literally play it just like a piano or like an organ, and it'll just turn the resonance on each one that I want to play at each time.
Yeah. For sure, man. Resonance is key to all this. It's you know, the resonance is the coherence, you know, and the coherence really is what allows for anything to reach a higher state. So I know that's very simply put, but it really is actually that simple.
Well, the frequency in the system, okay, it also dictates the color of the plasma coming out. As you go higher and lower in the frequency, you're going to notice the plasma state's going to change. You're going to go from a nice purple, you're going to go over to an orange, you're going to get a yellow, you're going to get a white, you're going to get a pink. All colors that come out, as soon as you change the frequency in your system to any flyback that you want, and you get that anode-cathode relationship, you can change the plasma within any single one of them, which is telling you when you're in resonance and it's, you know, self-building itself, you can change any one of these to any gas that you want that's within that parameter of it. You know what I mean? And that's what it's doing. It's exciting the gas. So as we do this, we're learning that. And then I showed something the other day, compression of the coil. When you compress it, the resonance frequency becomes tighter. So normally you have 10 kilohertz that you could play with, right? And it'll bounce up on your oscilloscope between 10 kilohertz, right? When you put a ring around it and compress it again, besides your number one winding, it drops it down to 3 kilohertz that it'll allow you to go up and down. But when you add a third one to it, it'll only allow 1 kilohertz of difference. By the time you add the fourth one to it, you get where I'm going, right?
Right. The accuracy becomes paramount. Right. The accuracy becomes paramount the more you add. Any slight something off, it's not going to take.
So basically what that means though is when you're in a sphere shape and you're compressed like that, you're absolutely getting a true frequency. But the frequency in that coil isn't just one frequency. This is what people don't understand. When you get a cap bank, it starts to become very apparent what you're doing. As you start flipping the caps, right? What happens is you'll build up the resonance frequency and then it'll drop off and then it'll build up again. So you'll start to be in like 400, okay, like 406, and then an immediate drop off of the coil. The next time it pops in, you're going to be right around like 600. So, and that's in kilohertz, but it still has an amplitude to it. So you're still getting frequency out of it. And it'll keep doing that and it'll get into the megahertz level. It goes all the way down to like 150 kilohertz, I think it was. But you got to understand there's a scale that goes on inside that represents. So when you're saying like this, like it goes like this in each of the spheres, how they build out like that, that's all the resonance frequencies that's available in that zone. Right there. That's your half, that's your quarter, that's your full, that's everything.
So Dennis is saying that impedance is the next variable. So I mean the one thing about impedance just generally is that they're critical. It's critical to consider when designing and deciding how to operate what it is. But once you get the thing going within the system itself, it's very, very, very low impedance because of what it's doing. When you bring the magnetic element into this sort of radiant energy, what that really does is, it's very similar to the RAV circumstance. We're in a situation environmentally where we're constantly pushing out, the fourth dimension. I'm just going to keep on saying it. We're pushing out the fourth dimension. Whenever you start to screw with the ambient magnetism potential in a given area and in relationship to matter, what it starts to do is it starts to actually pull that kind of open. And even the slightest amount open automatically starts to reduce the amount of resistance that is incurred within the system, which is why you're able to get such, phenomenal field geometries that seem to work, seamlessly off of those compressions, because that compression of the magnetism in that zone is actually pulling open the middle in that regard to the general effects of
Hold on. I think that there's a very bad part to what they're doing. So just understand me here. They're compressing one frequency is what they're doing. So they have a one-on-one relationship. They have a frequency.
When you say I'm sorry to interrupt, but just to be clear, when you say they're doing, who are you talking about? What am I missing?
I'm sorry. When you get to physicists and they're building out these machines in order to get these things.
Everybody outside of this group of individuals
everyone that I've possibly seen, this is what they're doing. Okay, they're trying to get one flow of plasma to go, and they're trying to heat it up to super high temperatures. Okay. That's what they're doing, and they're compressing it with magnets in every one of the machines. What's the problem with this? It is a one-on-one relationship, plasma to resonance, okay? And you're failing because you're trying to get the plasma is the energy. The resonance is the energy. So let me clarify a little more. When this thing builds out naturally, it builds out in spheres as it builds out, which means every time you get a layer of that sphere, that's a resonance frequency you can pull energy from. The plasma itself is colder than what they want to believe it is. And I'll tell you what, because they go into a hot state, a cold state, a hot state, a cold state as it builds out, and it gets less at the end than it is in the middle. Okay. That's what they're not realizing. When they confine it, they're going one-on-one. When they go one-on-one, they ruin the value. Okay. Completely ruin it because it's not building out. If they simply took a transformer next to it and used that resonance and made the exact frequency in that transformer, then they would have the power right then and there in each one of the levels that they build out. They don't have to take the energy from the plasma at all. You take the resonance in the transformer. It's like,
That is the point, right?
yeah, I could take a tuning fork, and if I wind my transformer right, I can turn that transformer on, no problem. I could put energy right into it, but that's what they're doing. That's what they're not seeing. They don't understand the resonance factor to it. So
you know, when
they try to
you
pull it
think,
out of plasma.
yeah, when you think like a monkey, you throw shit at the wall and see if it sticks. You know, it's sort of what it comes down to, right? So, hey, Bernie, look at this guy.
Bernie, what's up, brother?
What up? Just
Yo,
joining
Bernie
in
the
from
American.
Albuquerque Airport. All right.
Yeah, man.
Man, that's awesome, brother.
I'm loving life. Things are finally manifesting the way they're supposed to.
Amen, bro. Like to hear that.
Right? And like, look at the breakthroughs we're having here. It just keeps coming together. But next year we're gonna have a flying craft, I think, or at least a demo.
Yeah,
Hope so.
I think that there's
At
a
least-
demo
at least
probably
the
ready to rock and roll, man.
And like something lifting off the ground. I think that's completely reasonable. We're definitely going to have some transmutation aspects being reproduced very easily, and I look forward to it. Everything's coming together.
Big time.
Oh,
You know,
yeah,
and that's what kind of does suck about, like, you know, the space in which we're currently operating, you know, without any sort of funding or anything like that to move it along, because it's like you start identifying necessary components and stuff that would actually be able to, like, you know, present it in like such a meaningful way. And it's just like, you know, you mention it because it's like, how do you not? But it's also out of reach. And, you know, things like being able to confirm transmutation from, you know, little
I
metallic
might have gotten
deposits.
access to labs.
Yeah, right. So, you know, like we gotta be able to get the resources together to be able to confirm this stuff. And that's sort of where it's at, you know. Because, you know, there is metallic specs all over.
It seems the dark forces that were stealing ideas and stealing the resources are starting to get exposed a little bit, and that some funds might start trickling in soon. So hopefully that's the case.
Hopefully, it's all you can hope.
Well, you know, nature's simpler than what they wanted to make it to be. And when you realize that, we can accomplish a lot more with less funds. The funds are going to come at the end, man, when we get the payoff. When we do all this stuff.
Like straight up, it's like, oh, they've got $1 trillion at the Hadron Collider and haven't been able to prove shit in 40 years.
Yeah.
And then there's like us out here with like scraping by to feed our families, pay our mortgages, and making breakthroughs at the same time.
But that's because they're trying to break things that are already formed just to see what it breaks into. And you know, like that's like the equivalent of smashing two cars together, but all you could see is a car form, and then being like, and then being like, look, this time we detected a side view mirror, and we have a bumper. Do you see this bumper? You know, it's like, okay, cool. Like, what is it supposed to mean?
That's the best analogy I've ever heard.
And but the crazy shit is that they try to define it based on like size and spin. But isn't the consideration that you're smashing two things together, that it's supposed to be the original fundamental particle? So based on how it smashes together, you're going to get different sizes of things. And then based on what the nature of the interaction, the speed, the velocity, you know, the angle of impact and all these different factors, right, is also going to be deterministic of what happens to that bit after it smashes off. Like maybe it'll start going that way but spinning this way because of how it was hit,
so much
and then
sense.
you measure that and all of a sudden that's supposed to be meaningful. It wasn't made of that shit in the first place. You know, come on.
Like, what's this shard of glass here? How come it's not powering itself anymore? Why isn't it moving? Why did
Yeah.
it cut me? Ah,
Right, right. And because their ability to even measure this shit is only finite in the first place, they're able to only identify a handful of different configurations in which it could be. So it's basically like it's made of 32 different parts or something. You know what I mean? Like
32,000 different shards.
right. The fact is that it's made of one part that you just broke.
Yeah.
And it doesn't come with glue-ons to put it back together.
Is there something more to it down at the finer level? Absolutely. We've talked about that, right? But that's not the point. The point is that that's not what you're seeing when you break it apart. It's not a clean break.
No.
It's held together by the force of the universe, for Christ's sakes. But yet when it breaks clean.
Yeah. Oh my God.
God, man. An idiot born every minute. And kill the grass and all the people above you while you're at it too, right? With all your goddamn terrible, radiation and
Oh my God.
insane toroidal magnetic
Right?
field
Like, why is
for
that glass cutting me? Why
miles
is
and
this
miles.
injuring me? Well, because you started it into radiation.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
my God, dude. Yeah, they make the biggest pieces of junk for the most money that still don't work. That's so sad. How do you
It's
spend that
probably
much
still
money?
getting $1 trillion. Like, this is hot fusion needs to go, and cold fusion needs to be funded, aka plasma fusion. It's all plasma and plasma field interactions.
But it's
Now
not
I
just
agree with
that.
with
It's hot
Gerald,
and
man.
cold. It's hot and cold. It's both. You're gonna find it's both. That's how they hold each other in. It's literally like hot, then cold, then hot, then cold. And it's hilarious because they don't see the interaction of it.
Okay, hold on.
Matter with the hot and cold energy.
I'm gonna be the one that says it
No,
out
hold
loud.
on, hold on, because what's happening is they're fighting each other right there. They get so much energy in that one spot that they're crossing over each other. When they do that, it makes null zones. When it makes null zones, it doesn't mean it's empty. It just means that they can't get the energy out. So it makes a zone that doesn't feel like there's any energy, but there's plenty there. But that's your cold zone as you go.
So hold on. Let me say the quiet part out loud here. Okay. Once you understand that it's all about separating differentials and then throwing them into whatever equilibrium could form out of the asymmetry that they part out into, okay, that is exactly the same as reversing entropy. Okay.
It is entropy.
You can't that is exactly what it is, because the whole nature of an entropic process is the mixing and randomization and exchange of two differentials into a diffuse state that no longer makes sense anymore, right? So it no longer becomes able to exchange in mass. Okay, and I say mass not in terms of weight, you know what I mean, in quantity, that's meaningful once it becomes in such a disordered state. Okay, but by separating your differentials and then throwing them into some type of equilibrium process, entropy can't happen because of the bifurcation that occurs. You're bifurcating and then you're adding vectoral rotation in order to stabilize. All right. And that is how you reverse entropy. And that is the answer to all of everything we've ever discussed.
What you just said actually explains exactly what I'm doing in electrolysis when I'm taking things out of the reaction and putting them into the neutrals to stabilize them, and it prevents and reverses the continued action. Well said, Joe. Well said.
That's exactly what it is. And, it's because it is all the same, by the way, and your means of getting there is different. And, you could do it with coils. You could do it with resonance over distance.
Well,
You could
so the
do it
coils
with
are a key part of my electrodes, and to get here's a big disclosure: to get the real metamaterials and isotope formations on the electrodes, you have to have that triple coil field action happening.
All right. So
That makes all the sense in the world. The three.
So we're talking about all these different methods to the mayhem, okay? Or anti-mayhem, as you would. We'll go all the way back to 1 year ago, which, by the way, I hate to be the one to do it myself, but happy 1 year anniversary to me. Being on
Yay!
YouTube and talking about this sort of stuff.
Happy anniversary to Joe. He's no longer the community idiot.
No, I'll always be the community idiot. But no, in all seriousness, I want to bring it back right to day one. Okay, the weird rock. Why was the weird rock weird? All right, it was weird because it was a Cogom lattice. Okay, it was a multiferroic quantum spin liquid. Not my words. Don't shoot me for saying the Q word. Okay, and what does that mean in actuality? Well, what that means is that you have a six-pointed star made of triangles with a hexagon in the middle, with hexagons surrounding it that link up indefinitely. And the triangles in the lattice, okay, are pure equilibrium and pure disorder simultaneously and fail at all points to lock into any stable state, which means that it's in a constant state of fluctuation that's environmentally impacted.
Snap.
Okay.
So what you just said, I'm pretty sure explains my tritium crystals that I've formed that are both from one angle solid black, from the other angle completely see-through.
Yeah. That's and that again, there's a lot of shared properties that are potentially there because of the structure. And now I'm going to take this into a different angle. It's going to sidetrack the conversation seemingly, but it's all related. Stuff I've started sharing it earlier today.
Hold on real quick. Ulysses, happy birthday, man.
Oh, Ulysses' birthday? Get out of here.
Yeah. You gotta say happy birthday, man.
Birthday, man.
Birthday anniversary.
This one's for you, bro.
Nice.
So, and you know what, Ulysses, you're gonna dig this, man. So I dedicate what I'm about to explain to your birthday, bro. All right, Nathan, do you have the pictures that I sent you from earlier by chance? The ones with the geometry.
Give me 1 second. I'll get them for you.
Okay.
You want all of them, or you want to start with a certain one?
Yeah, it doesn't really start wherever, and I'll explain it. We could break it down or build it up. It doesn't really matter.
Okay. I have 2, but you sent me more than that.
Yeah, I sent you. Just however many I sent you, we could just scroll through them. But I'll start explaining while you're doing that. So, what I found is alpha omega. Okay, now this gets a little bit esoteric in terms of theology, but I'm going to go there a little bit just to kind of tie it up. Okay, Jesus Christ in the Bible was quoted very few times as his actual words. Okay, but the actual words that he said, okay, more or less in English, was that I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end, okay, is exactly what the Alpha and Omega symbolizes. Okay.
Oh, damn. Look at what you are showing and describing simultaneously.
Okay. And he said that for that, he is eternal. All right. Bear this in mind. Okay. Now you could go to so that is the Alpha and the Omega. All right. But what happens when you dump an Ankh in the middle?
Shit. Wow.
Because remember, he was eternal. So the Alpha, the Omega, and the Ankh. Okay. Because the Ankh is the key to the eternal. Okay. And as it's put in there in this format, you see the all-seeing eye with the top radio, the top emanation. Okay. Now it gets crazier. All right. So now we could progress. So what happens when you
Oh,
take the
yeah,
alpha, the
just clear
omega,
my mind.
and you invert them and superimpose them on top of each other in a mirrored image? That's what happens.
Wow. Wow. Look at that.
Okay.
Wow.
That's cool.
Now here's the thing, right? The Ankh is the key, and the Ankh keys into this geometry in different ways, like this. See that?
What the? Wow. You just cracked a major code in all of the alchemical spells that are actually just coding geometries for transmutations and how energy works. Like, this is fucking phenomenal. Pardon my language.
But wait, there's more. Okay. And we don't even need to look at further geometry. We could look at this geometry, and that's perfectly fine while I give this explanation. Okay. Now, when you look at the words alpha, omega, and Ankh, and then you translate them into biblical period Hebrew, okay, then you run the gematria on it. You come up with 125, 406, 11, which is 642, equals 12 equals 3. All right. You break it down into fractions of the parts. 8/12, 0.666. 1/12, 0.083. 3/12, 0.25.
Some important, very important fractions in ancient Egyptian and Sumerian coding as well.
And by the way, the word Ankh was not translated into Hebrew first. It was actually the word in which the Egyptians would have used, okay, at the time, then translated into Hebrew. And what does it mean? It means, like Jesus Christ himself said, because that's exactly where it's all coming from, the beginning, the end, the key, the eternal. That's it.
And that's what we're looking at. And it's all contained within it.
Listen, I'm going to say it out loud, and it's not that I'm pissed off, but I'm going to say it. Gerald, just because Jesus didn't tell you doesn't mean that it's not plausible in the history of the universe. Okay. I'm just telling you. Like, I understand your experience and I don't degrade what it is, but Jesus Christ himself lived in a time where these things were relevant. These things are present in the Bible. The Bible is quoted in terms of exactly what it was said, and it was one of the few words Jesus Christ himself spoke. The geometries build out the symbol of the religion, which he was marked king of and a practitioner of. And the only witchcraft sacrilege is the establishment of an ancient Egyptian symbol within it. Okay. And there's a direct correlation between the Jews and the Egyptians throughout the entire course of the Bible. So you could say whatever you want. You want to call it witchcraft, that's fine. But at the end of the day, like, you know what? I don't disrespect where you come from. And I'm going to ask for that same respect in return. I'm not going to sit there and be a doormat to anybody anymore. That's that. And by the way, I saw your experiment, the ball lightning in the little glass tube. That's cool, by the way. The only reason that exists is because it's hooked up to an anode and a cathode. So, you know, we could talk about that if you'd like, but I'd like to have a productive conversation.
Wow. Okay. Not getting in the middle of all that. All right.
I think we should all talk about it tonight on Faraday Research and have an open debate, right? Like, that's what science is an open debate. That's real science.
I love it, man. I'm willing to have the conversation. And that's always, well, that's even why I brought up what I brought up, is because it's all time period relevant. And you know, the geometry, like, you know what, you could sit there and you know, pretend like those things didn't collapse into the geometries that we consider sacred geometry and mandalas. which is the exact basis of Gerald's geometry coil. So,
Hold
call
on,
me
hold on.
horseshit if you want.
Let me just say this out loud so you guys know where I'm coming from. I don't give one shit. I don't give one hair on my ass what it is and what you think it is. I care what the math proves out. I care what the process proves out. I care what it does. Okay. I don't care if you call it witchcraft, God's will. I don't give a shit. What I do care about what the experiment shows and what it tells you what they're doing. I don't care how they coded it.
And just don't summon demons in the experiments, and it won't be witchcraft, hopefully.
They're coming no matter what. As soon as you start building any
When
kind
you open
of
the
time
portal, they come
dilation,
through.
no. When you build a time dilation field, you're going to get black spots that show up and they start zooming around your room, dude. That's what happens. So you summon your fucking demons, if you want to call them that. I just see
You're
it
opening
as
the portal. There's
yeah,
consciousness within the time-space portal continuum. There's no other way to
yeah.
put it.
But what are you going to do? Stop and say, "Oh my God, we got demons"? No, you're going to continue and do the science. I mean, fuck it, dude. We're already here. Let's get it
And
done.
have a ring of salt around you so they don't possess you. That's what the alchemists say.
Good luck in possessing me,
legitimate.
man. They're going to go into the ocean and get shot and harpooned. Good luck with that. Look, no, it's all the same to me, man. I don't care where you get it. We're just looking at the science of it. I could care less what you call it. Because if it works, it works. Okay, then there's something going on scientifically with it. So what do I care? Okay. You can worship at any altar you want, as far as I'm concerned, because God's oblivious to all of this. He doesn't care what you call it. He's way beyond
I agree,
all of
man.
this.
He doesn't care what you call it. Not in the
He's
least,
way
man.
beyond all of us. So what does it
It's
matter?
all God's divine creation, and part of creation is destruction. It's what side you choose to embrace, and it's about embracing creation, right?
Yeah, but to him, it's all the same thing. You got to destroy to create. You got to create in order for it to destroy it. It's all the same to him. That's what people don't understand. You think that coherence and chaos are different. They're just not. Okay. You think that they're not part of the same cycle, but they are. So it's
Mhm.
just the science that matters. Okay. I don't care which altar you worship at. Do your thing. You know what I mean? Be happy with it.
The idea here is
Science
this.
is the science.
The idea here is this. There's many paths to the same exact location. Okay, there's many paths to the same exact location. And if you sit there and you get so caught up in the discussion when you're there and you're all in the same place, as to the fact that you're not here because you took a different path that you're describing, we've literally gone insane, lost our minds, and then there's no point in having the discussion. And that's what I dread of it. And it just sort of is what it is. Like, but you know what? I sit there and humbly often say when I disagree with people, like, hey, listen, I have my opinion. This is what I think. I'm not calling you wrong. I don't really know, but I have a different thought process. Here's mine. There's yours. Right. Well, if you're going to sit there and then, sit there and say that I'm full of shit when I continuously respect you, even when I disagree with you, I draw the line. Like at this point, you know what? I've been a doormat my entire damn, existence, and it's over. So that's all I'm saying. Peace and love always, and no disrespect. Some people need to think about, what comes out of their mouth maybe before it does, and realize that the words that we use often describe the same thing. But if you're only looking for the words that you're thinking is correct, then you're never going to be right ever. Doesn't matter if Jesus Christ himself told you, motherfucker.
Right in there at the end.
Is what it is.
Well,
And listen, I'm a firm believer in Jesus. I don't practice witchcraft. Okay. And I'm very blessed in my life. Despite hard times. Still very blessed in my life. Anyway.
I feel you.
man, you ever
I
get
love
that
Gerald.
feeling?
Gerald,
Like,
we love you, man. We ain't doing no witchcraft, man. Just join and discuss, and let's work out the science of it, man.
I have no issue with you whatsoever, but I'm not going to be called like that. That's all.
You ever get the feeling like God put us here to piss the world off? Because that's all we do. You notice that, right? When we tell the truth about all of our experiments and it doesn't match up with all their shit, we keep pissing everyone off. And then when you expose something, it's just science, it pisses people off. It doesn't mean you can't have a belief in God, because we all believe in God in one way or the other. So get the fuck
Absolutely.
over it. I mean, look, I always tell that to my family. God sent me to piss all of you off. That way you keep in line. That's what it is. So,
Yeah.
whatever. It is true, because he's beyond anything that we can ever understand or conceive of. So,
Yeah. And honestly, it's in my opinion, and feel free to disagree, but it's wildly disrespectful to try and sum up like God. Period. Hard stop. End story. He's unknowable. You could connect with him on whatever level, but you could meet him, know him, and still never understand the vastness and expanse and glory of it. So that just is what it is. And I think that we ought to move on from it. But nonetheless, just because I brought an esoteric point and then brought literal images that I created that are known images by combining known things that are connected, evidently that was enough to that was enough to trigger a situation.
There's
But
a reason
you know,
why the
there-
church labeled this as witchcraft as well, and
absolutely.
right, like that's the whole point, is to propagandize it and make people fearful of like Jesus, potential true teachings as a mystic that he was documented to be.
well,
That's exactly it.
here's the thing: if you want to hide the truth, then call it something like that. Call it Lucifer's, you know what I mean, sentences, or whatever the hell you want to, because that's how you hide it. Okay, that's how you hide the truth of how everything works. Is you take the good parts and you put it in the Bible as banishment property, or you burn at the stake for knowing it.
Right.
We
And
want to
remember something.
We want to know that the sun is the center of our solar system. Oh my God, it's not the Earth. Let's burn them at the stake. Oh my God, you know what I mean? We're talking about this planet over here. Burn them at the stake. Every fucking time we get somewhere and we start learning something, they burn them at the stake. Okay. Fuck those people. Fuck their religion and fuck everything they stand for. Okay. I don't give a fucking shit. Okay. I care about the science, and that's it, dude. I worship God in my own fucking way, dude.
So
He
that
doesn't give a shit
legitimately
about
was,
any of this.
Nathan legitimately was just racking off a frigging a Slipknot song. And that's such a badass song too. I remember banging to that thing back in the day hard. I probably did it more recently than that too. Yeah. So long and short is this, right? With the geometry. Okay. You saw it come together. I told you the bits. Okay. Then the math is the math. Okay. And you got to remember something too, when you start to look back at 3, 6, and 9 and my presentation on that, because evidently I'm just, I don't come up with things. So like, I didn't come up with all that. The 3, 6, 9, you bridge the gap by doing exactly what Fibonacci does, which is taking the all, mirroring the all into 1, 1, and then breaking it out from there. And what you start to realize is that a nice sequence starts to pop up. And what you end up with on one side of the sequence is 2/3. And on the other side of the sequence, 3 seconds, because you don't have 1 as a whole, you have 2 as a whole, right? So you have 666 on one side, and 144 is the inverse relationship of that. And the Bible says that 666 is man. not that it says it's man. 144 is the tribes of Israel. Okay. So you see how these specific numbers and relationships tie into the theology aspects, but tie into the fractions and therefore the geometry. So, all this stuff is there. It's stuff that, I'm not saying these things. I'm quoting source, right?
That's fine.
So that's sort of it, right? quoting source on that. So yeah, 2/3, 3 seconds, and then what falls in the middle is the half of the two, which is Schumann's resonance. Who made that one up? Oh wait, so you have man, the enlightened man on Earth.
Yeah.
I'm not making these numbers up. These are the numbers.
Hey! While we're pissing the world off, I don't believe we came from monkeys either. So you can take that shit and shit.
Yeah, I don't believe that.
I ain't no fucking monkey. We didn't come from that.
Nope,
Okay,
I don't think that
not
happened.
into that. Sometimes I look like one, like right now with my hair. I could, you know what I mean? Maybe a Sasquatch after a while, but we didn't come from that. Sorry.
Yep. So
you could take
you-
that.
Brothers,
How are you born in God's image if you look like a fucking monkey?
nuclear fusion, but it's all tied together. That's the whole thing, right? The quantum theory of everything has to include everything.
Yo, Omega's my man right now. Yo, old monkey builds.
Dude, I gotta make a t-shirt. That's awesome. Yeah.
Definitely,
I'm
man.
starting
Yo,
a
that's a
music
t-shirt.
group
I'll
called The
design that
Immortal
one. So
Alchemists.
Oh yeah. Old man Sasquatch. There we go.
All right, my
Oh,
friends,
dude.
I got to catch my flight now, so I'll be listening. But y'all, and we'll hopefully see you later on Faraday Research.
yeah,
Right on,
man.
brother.
We're sad to see you leave America, buddy. But
Great work.
have
Well,
a
I'm
safe trip
spending the
back.
night in LA. I'm heading over to Julia's place for the night. Giggity, giggity.
Oh,
Oh,
Yeah, we just
nice.
friends, but you never know.
All right. Well,
That's
just
all.
don't bed
gotta
Tom
find
on the
the
way home,
American
and you'll be
life,
fine.
y'all.
good luck, Bernie. Have a great time, man.
Catch
Much
you later,
love.
buddy.
Oh man.
Yeah, that's a riot.
Oh,
Yeah, we
man.
definitely have what to talk about later, man. Like we'll continue on our path for now. But you know, I've been wanting to tap Bernie for Tesla Tech. Man, they keep that thing lock and key.
Oh yeah.
And I really, I wonder just to myself how beneficial that even is to them. Because realistically, like anybody that's gonna go would want to go because they see what's there and then want to be able to interact in that experience and make the connections and with the people, like
Well, you got to let a little bit out, a little bit of highlight, a little bit of, you know what I mean? Come and see this over here. Yeah. No, we all understand that.
yeah, pretty much. But I'm interested in seeing what he has to say about it. And I know he got to talk to Terrence Howard, and I have a little bit mixed feelings about some of Terrence Howard's theories. But at the same exact time, some of the geometries that he came up with are remarkable and significant. So, there's definitely something to be told there, and I'd love to know what Bernie of all people was able to kind of get out of him.
Okay. Sorry, I'm looking at something real quick. I got a video sent to me. Dude, I'll be honest with you. Terrence Howard is awesome, brother. Just the simple fact that he came out with everything, that he would actually understand that you need the Russell scale in any of it. The fact that there's geometry involved. I mean, right along the lines of what we talk about and we understand. He's coming up with the same thing. Everybody gets there a little differently. The figures that he puts out there, look, if you put it out in actual plasma between an anode and a cathode, you're going to get every one of those shapes. Okay. It builds the field that way. I've been doing high voltage a long time, man. If you want to make a shape out of something, you want to get a positive negative relationship and have that thing flow. And then the plasma flows like that, man, when you want it to.
Yep.
He's got something there just in a slightly different way than we're used to. And I love it.
Something I wanted to bring up real quick, well, it's on the top of my head at least, right? Was I've been spending like entirely too much time with probably not as much resource as I should have, studying the RAV lens anomaly, we'll call it. I think that's probably the best way to put it. I want to put the disclaimer out there because I think that there might be some misunderstanding as to kind of what I'm saying. I believe in the observation okay, that I'm making out of it, that it absolutely is a lens effect, okay? And I want to make that very clear, okay? Meaning that like the interaction between whatever it is that we're looking at, okay, and the lens and the sensor, okay, is necessary in order to be able to capture what it is, okay?
Okay.
But I think that what it is, okay, is not in the traditional sense of a lens flare, okay? It doesn't follow a lot of the same rules. Now, Magneto was a good man. He took the time to actually break down exactly why that is. I'm in full agreement with him. You know, it's because, and it's like he said, you know, and he went into too much detail, and I don't have it up in front of me, and I don't want to start misquoting it, you know,
Let's
but
give it the finer points then. What do you got?
yeah, so more or less, I mean, he was saying that it is a 4D projection of the 4D object, and that's why you're not seeing it. And that's what I've been saying all along, right? But it's not that you're necessarily seeing the fourth dimension by virtue of seeing it. Okay, it's that is there, but it's captured by virtue of the lens effect. Okay, that is occurring. And that's why it's so easily chalked up as a lens effect, because it shares similarities in terms of the lens shifting and stuff as far as the perspective of capturing it is concerned. Okay, but the reality of it tends to be that I actually have a video that I sent Eighth. I should have sent it to Nathan. If I didn't, whatever. But it shows it being born on the clay on a flat plane before it ever comes up. And it only comes up after the total formation. Okay. And it rises. And when it rises, it does its thing, whatever. Okay. That ejecta event happens in that particular video. And it's slightly inconsistent throughout the videos, which is what I don't like. And I'm being honest about it. You know, like I'm able to see some of the same types of phenomena existing, but it's just so apparent in that one with the counter rotational magnetic ring around it that tends to be my go-to in terms of analysis. And you know, again, it's not looking into or capturing the fourth dimension. That's an impossibility. But what it is doing is projecting its whole self into our dimension in what would be a four-dimensional object in 3D as far as we can perceive in 3D, you know, and that's why it's non-reactive in conjunction with that which causes it. So for instance, when you look at a lake, you know, and there's trees in the distance, and you know, the wind blows in the distance, right? But you still have a nice crystal clear picture on the lake. Well, the trees move. And well, what do you see in the reflection? Well, you see the trees move, right? Well, you don't see that here. You know, so
Go on.
yeah, so the variations that you get in a normal reflection are absent in this particular circumstance. You know, also the way that it reflects being inverse like that, there's obviously mirroring that occurs, you know, whenever you're talking about looking at something in a forward direction from that. But you got to remember the sensor that's capturing this is on the inside of the lens in which is reflecting it. Okay. So there should be no inversion in that circumstance because you're on the inside end of it, but yet there's still an inversion. And when you take everything that you know about dimensionality, you understand that it is always a mirroring effect that occurs when transitioning from a three-dimensional object to a four-dimensional analog. All right. And that's exactly what you're seeing. What I've been able to do through non-destructive photo enhancement, okay, aka just messing with levels, okay, I've been able to show that there's an inner geometry to the reflection that you could see. And I did send that photo to Nathan. and minding that it's inverse in nature, right? The top of it, where the anode is kind of blasting into it still,
Mhm.
is still kind of overexposed because of that circumstance. You know, because that's the tether that actually keeps it third dimensional. The tether. But the bottom of it, you can see clearly that there's a funnel inside, which is actually, and the bottom is the top, mind you, because it's inverse. Okay. So,
Okay.
this is crazy stuff that's beyond like speculation at this point, not because of any one thing, but because of the accumulation thing, the accumulation of the sum here, you know, like you cumulatively look at it and then all of a sudden it becomes very apparent that you're not dealing with just a lens flare. I looked at this video probably 50 times before I ever thought about that object because I chalked it up as a lens flare. For me to believe that it was anything other than a lens flare was me looking at it more closely and understanding that it's not acting in the way that you would expect. You know,
Well,
and then taking notes of all that.
it's not just that. Wouldn't it just build out of one color? What it looks like it's mirroring it, but with color and depth that you can't see in the ball itself. You can't see any of that in the ball. It just looks like a bright, shiny light.
All right.
But
Now,
all the other stuff builds out in geometry.
Now, the problem I have with that, what you're saying, okay, is that I'm from, like, I have a, okay, I don't share a lot about myself on the show, you know, and maybe sometimes I should, I don't know. Like, you know, I have a very long history of owning high-end cameras, lenses,
Okay.
photography, going back to the time that I was 11 years old, 12 years old. I've won multiple photography awards, like multiple, throughout the course of my life. You know, I've had published photographs in newspapers. You know,
Very cool.
yeah, and you know, even like when I was younger, you know, I was a graphic artist, and a big portion of my job was actually product marketing, and that was all photography related product marketing too. So I have like a very, very long and extensive experience, professional history, you know, with cameras, lenses, digital, film, you know, like the differentiations, you know, different aperture, shutter speeds, ISOs, you know, like this stuff is not, this is not an idiot talking about something that he has no business talking about, like I do generally, you know, when I talk about stuff like this. You know, so that's why I realized like this, like I've seen a lot of lens flare before. Sometimes you even want it because it adds a nice effect, and this isn't it.
Okay.
It's not the same thing, but it looks like it. But here's why I don't agree with the color, okay? Is because sometimes the anti-reflective lens coatings that they use on a lens are exactly purple and green. So a lot of times, you know, like you get that type of coloration, you know, from the anti-reflective coating. So again, do with that as what you may. Obviously, the anti-reflective coating is being triggered, and that's probably why you're not seeing a lot of refraction type things out of it, but it does not explain the lack of geometric change that you see when you're looking at the orb itself, because that should still change. That's the same as the wind blowing in the distance at the trees and you not seeing it happen on the lake. That doesn't make sense, and that's what we're observing here. Plus the fact that it's inverse when you're viewing from the inside of the reflection. So the reflection's here. Okay, you're still capturing the reflection as it hits, which is exactly the same and not inverse.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, that's sort of where it's at. Like, really, really cool phenomena.
Well, I'm there with you, Joe. I'm not trying to argue with you at all on this. I'm not.
Yep.
I can't even set my camera to slow speed. Okay, I have no idea. I just know when I see these things build out, I do see the circles in the green. We see the center point in it. And you can see it pretty clearly if you look at this for a while. Oh, hold on. Let me go right to the end where it stopped. Look at that image, Joe. That's pretty trick.
Yeah, right. I've never seen a reflection warp either into itself. I mean, I guess I kind of have, but like not like that.
Like a ghost of the 40 objects, man. That's weird. That's just cool, though.
Yeah.
No, but this is a whole different understanding. So let's get back to the original topic here when we're talking about this. We're talking about fusion here. And this is why they're not understanding the fusion. You can clearly see outlined that there's barriers in between. You can see the null zones in black. As you scroll through this, okay, you can start to see everything in here. It immediately builds out this little ball thing from it. Joe says that's an inconsistency in it, okay, which it could very well be, but it's where the rings start to populate and where it sits. And we looked at the slag effect. Well, we're on clay. The anode itself is undamaged. Okay, there's no ball at the end of that anode. None of that exists. It's pure and clean when it's done. This is a piano wire that's being put out there. None of the slag effect exists. If there was, you would lose some of the anode because that's the only place that would have it. And I understand everybody wants to talk about the iron and the clay, but I'm going to tell you that's not enough to do that. I'll sit there with fire on this thing all day and I'm not getting that slag. Okay, I'm not.
But not only that, Nathan. Like so there's things going on here that are observable that kind of do lend itself well to the spot. Okay, but none of it has to do with actual physical matter or slag or anything like that. First of all, when it powers down, nothing's there. Okay, so let's be very clear about that. Now, when it's building out,
where is it now, though? Look at it now. There's no power in this. Where is it now?
That's what I'm saying, right? There's no remnants. So if it was,
it's right there.
If it was material, right? If it was material, then there would be something left, and there's not. The other thing too, though, is something a pre-formation observation. Okay, and when the purple plasma is actually spreading along the surface of the clay initially, and it's starting to zone out, you'll notice that there's hyperspecific spots that are illuminated. Okay, those hyperspecific spots are actually the cathodic energy pulling the same as lightning would to the rod. And if you notice, the arcs will always go to those spots, okay? And then they'll reappear. Now, because there's many of those spots during the formation, if you ever notice that the anode has this type of fingering effect as it starts to coalesce. Now, initially, it starts off as an arc where it's got a current vector pretty much exclusively. And, it really isn't trying to break off at the point where the anode lets it go. Okay. But as it starts to coalesce and the densities start to get higher, it starts to kind of like get fingery a little bit. And I don't know what else to describe that as, but like that's sort of what it tends to do. And it's those fingers are all kind of coalescing at the main fragment. But what you'll notice is they'll drift off every so often. And if one of those little spots of the cathodic energy are in the zone, it'll actually strike that, and that's what the formation of that is. And I've examined that enough times in enough videos to realize that. Also, it's worth noting that phenomena, although not consistent in the sense of every single time, it's a regular formation that occurs. So in multiple tests from, however many tests, every so often it will actually form. And it's actually not a good thing. My research says that it's not a good thing.
Well, according to what they're trying to do in those big chambers, yeah. So just remember, you got to remember it in context. That's what they're trying to do in the big chamber because they want plasma. This is nature building out. It's a bit different. So
It is, but here's the thing.
hold on. I want to show you this so you see it.
Okay.
There's no slag. There's the dot. There's no slag. As we go through here, the dot moves as the ball moves.
Oh yeah, it's
Okay?
locked.
It moves in different position. It is directly related to the plasma itself. It's not in the same spot.
Nope.
It moves based on where you're moving the anode. It's a product of the anode, and I think it brings balance to it. I think that's what, because their machines don't work. You got to remember that they're failing to work. We're seeing something in coherence working.
All right. There's something else that I wanted to, like, I was going to say it at the time, but I didn't. But like, also, I want to put it out there, at least me. I'm not going to speak for Nathan, but there's no fusion event occurring here. I want to be very clear about that. And if it is a very minuscule scale, like that's sort of that. Like, there's electron stripping going on big time. Okay. So you're, bring the hydrogen into the plasma state. You're condensing it in the center. You have your charge differential. You have the multiple vectors of motion. It's all stable. That torsion of the center field and the outer field alone, is going to be enough to be able to, disassociate the valence electrons from the hydrogen. But the fact that it's hydrogen is probably just there's no indication of actual sustained fusion going on in this at any scale. And that doesn't mean that it's not capable of it, because the proof of concept is all here. But moving from hydrogen to deuterium oxide, moving from water to heavy water, right, is kind of one of the keys. And then increasing your absorption rate by making sure that you're not losing all the ionized deuterium at that point, into atmosphere, making sure that it permeates the clay and gets into the feed zone. That's what's gonna take this into that fusion zone, in my opinion. The fact that this is already forming in atmosphere, I've said it once and I'll say it 100 more times, because it's nothing short of brilliant and ingenious, the method that's being utilized to be able to sustain this in atmosphere. And it all boils down to the clay, okay? Because the clay is acting as a membrane for everything you want to come through, and nothing you don't to be kept out, because you need to stop the anode from creating a circuit, and it does that entirely and abundantly. And
Okay.
it's permeable, and
It starts the reaction.
it
But
allows.
after that, it's useless.
I don't think so. I mean, I think that there's a second. I don't agree with that.
Okay, well, we'll disagree then. I think that little ball right there that you see is what's giving it its resonance inside of it. It's bouncing back and forth between it. I don't think that cathode does anything past the initial start, and that's just the way I see it. You can see it the other way.
I mean, right, and I mean, I'm not saying that this is not necessarily, like, at this stage we don't have enough testing to say definitively either way.
I agree with that.
But I mean, at least my research and some of my observations, but not all, because I tend to agree. Like, could you sustain the outer shell of the plasma ball, under these conditions once it's stabilized? I believe so. So I don't think you're wrong in that regard. But the question is, what's inside? And I think that because there's an offset bias and not a perfect recycling going on between the stripped electrons, I think that in order to maintain the differential in the center and not just have it be, a one type of plasma spinning in a circle stable, I think that you have to proportionally feed it. That's what my research has said. And I kind of don't know what to make of that, because again, I just don't have the data.
Well, here's what I do know: the water dries up. You turn off the water behind it. So in his last ones, it wasn't just sitting in a pool of water; it was sitting in with a eyedropper is what he was using. The question then becomes if you expand the experiment a little bit and you only do a tiny bit on the backside where there is no confusion about it, once it heats up enough, you won't have any more water there whatsoever. Once this thing starts and
Right.
fires, if that's the case, then the hydrogen itself will not be the answer to like
No, you're wrong,
it,
and I'll tell you why you're wrong. I could explain why. Um, it's because the water is critical to the initiation of the process. Okay. However, if done properly, and I'm not saying with this current setup necessarily, okay, but I'm saying ideally, um, what you have to, okay, it's logical train of thought. We know that we have the positive energy going on to the negative bias of the clay, even though it's an insulator, right? We know that that creates a push-pull effect, and that because the reaction is primarily occurring on the anodic side, there's a pull bias. Okay, as long as the energy is on to keep it going, there's a cathodic reaction of, in this case, the hydrogen, right, still occurring. The permeability of the clay, okay, is of course absorbent in terms of water, which again was necessary to create the initial reaction. But it's going to be far more permeable to the hydrogen, which is a smaller molecule. So, because you then have this offset bias of the positive anode being applied to the surface of the membrane layer, it's going to naturally draw higher concentrations of the ionized gas as opposed to the liquid. Okay. And wherever the ionized gas is and is being pulled through, the liquid can't be. So even when it dries out, it becomes secondary because there's a gas draw that's able to occur. And that's actually the preferred thing that the clay would like to absorb because of the molecular size. So
okay.
it's more prone to being drawn.
I just don't agree that it's continuing to work. It would grow it bigger if it was. If the cathode continued to fire, it would grow bigger. No,
So
because there'd be a higher reaction because then you would get a secondary reaction. What we're seeing here is just simple resonance play out in front of you. The small dot and the center dot are in resonance with each other. Okay, and it's in a compression field. So all it has to do is hit one, hit one, hit one, hit one. It's like we use number one coils on our Tesla coils that don't match number two coils, and they work. Why? Because we could put a circuit on it that makes everything in the vicinity resonate with it. So I
like a lot of that I agree, like almost like everything you said I agree with. But the only thing is this, and you're discounting something you believe by virtue of just trying to propose something else. And uh, what I mean by that is like that there's the central axis.
it's not
Okay.
that. Hold on, I'll just tell you the reason why I say it. It's because it coalesces around it and then it stops. See, once it coalesces, we're at the same shape the entire thing through the entire video. It's the same size.
Yeah.
It coalesced and stopped building.
Okay.
It stopped building out.
Correct, because that's its state of equilibrium based on its electron stripping. So it's stripping so I've mentioned what I believe the fundamental flaws of the current system are. Okay. And I've said that there's a lot of atmospheric escape, okay, of the gases. So there's a limitation as to the amount of gas just generally because of that part of the setup. Okay. It's always going to go into atmosphere before it goes into clay because it is much more difficult for it to permeate through a substrate medium than it is to go into atmosphere. Why in the world would it do that? It wouldn't. So right now, all you're working off of is the amount of hydrogen that's able to be caught up in the initial reaction. And it doesn't grow because of that particular limitation. Now, in this circumstance, you have to realize that not me, I'm not saying this. This is laboratory experiments done
I get it. Go on.
in the crazy specific way. Okay, but it shows itself here too as to why the limitation exists. Okay, and that the idea there is because, again, there's electron stripping that's occurring, not fusion, electron stripping. The electron stripping feeds the anode at a certain rate. If you feed it too fast, it destabilizes. If you feed it at the right rate, which it is, okay, then it maintains. But if it runs out of valence electrons to strip from the inner sphere, then at that point, the offset bias of the positive anode takes up the space of the middle, but because it's already stable and it's already in motion, it stays in that state. And you have no real way of specifically telling what the inner geometry is or isn't comprised of at any given time. So just because it's sustaining doesn't mean that when it formed, it was in a positive on the outside and negative on the inside configuration. But as it lived its life and stayed the same, and it's flickering and still altering in size continuously, there's nothing to say that that negative charge and that plasma didn't deplete in the middle, because it's just staying stable because of the state that it was in. The magnetism element's still there. It's just compressing it all the same. So the cathodic feed is actually critical because it is, in fact, by virtue of its toroidal fluctuation, bringing the electrons out and feeding the anode. So it'll do that consistently until it dries up, like you said. And then once it dries up, though, it doesn't sustain the negative charge in the middle.
There's no color change, Joe.
Well,
No,
but how can you tell? Because we're talking about the inside shell, not the outside.
okay. If we're looking at the fourth dimensional object, there's no color change. So,
but Nathan, and hold on. There wouldn't be. I told you that the colors from that are not indicative of the gas, and it's not the inverse of the gas either. That what the color that you're seeing, I could say with, again, there's no certainty. I could say with 80% certainty that is the color that's being reflected of the anti-glare coating of the lens.
okay.
So the color there there's no bearing. If it were other colors, I'd say otherwise. But those two particular exact colors, I know those colors. That's anti-glare coating.
When you have an anode and cathode relationship, as you change the frequency, you're going to change the color in it because you're changing the gases in it. That plasma ball right there has no distortion in color. Usually in that relationship, you get it to go different colors. It'll go pink, it'll go yellow, it'll go different colors on you, okay? And it does it continuously. As soon as you drop the frequency one little bit, that's not happening here. It has a 100% consistent relationship.
I agree.
And hold on, as soon as you add the water to it, just understand this, on the cathode side, you change that relationship. When it dries up, when it brings it back, when it dries up and it brings it back, you're changing that frequency relationship in that. You already, because you added impedance and then took it away. You added impedance and took it away. That's why it's not touching the cathode anymore, because you're not getting that relationship there where it's moving in and out, okay? You're only getting the fluctuation in the energy itself, okay? You're not getting the color variation you should, okay? Because the water itself is impeding it. That's cut off from it. It has nothing to do with it anymore.
Well,
I'm telling you right now, if you add more hydrogen to this, it'll expand. I
agree with that. Absolutely. If you add more hydrogen to this, it will expand.
But that's what I mean. It's not getting more hydrogen. There's plenty more available.
We're not disagreeing there. So no, there's not necessarily plenty more available, and there is also a state of equilibrium.
Well, he's got more water under it, and it's only working as a diode. So, Yeah, he just burned out the surface amount. And if you're saying that it can't connect through the actual clay itself, then it proves my point that it's not connected anymore. The water has to come to the surface in order to form the cathode through there as the diode. And if it doesn't do that, then it can't form. It'll have to stay behind it, which means you change the relationship again.
I mean, listen, even though that we're in a little bit of a state of disagreement in this, like at the same time, I'm not so hard in my stance that I'm saying, well, no. Like,
Well, neither
I
one
mean,
of us are.
I'm like that's something. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. Because I mean, but I need to see otherwise. And again, I don't stick to, like, I don't stick to just because science says. But, again, when it comes to actually sustaining and building, and then you look at the things that like are able to be told by the current testing and not being the video, more or less, for intents and purposes here, right? I mean, if I splashed you with blue paint all over you, right? And I just said, and then I said, well, okay, you're blue, so you're not changing color. And then you're like, but I'm not blue. I'm like pasty, and I don't go outside ever. And even though I live in California, like like it'd be like, but I see blue, but I see blue, but I see blue. Well, no shit. I mean, you have you by virtue of what it is, you're never going to see the inside, and you're never going to see the color fluctuation of the inside either. Nor are you going to be able to tell what the density levels of the inside are, because they're inside. Now, the best tell based on what I've showed you before, okay, is the internal geometry of it ish. Is it a tell? Ish. Why? Why not? Definitely. Because it still have a toroidal axis because of the magnetism that keeps keeping it compressed.
Okay.
But would there be a difference in the eddy current like sort of side zones? Maybe, but that's a huge mathematical calculation that neither you or I have at this moment. So I'm not going to stick with it this way or that way, and
let me just make this point, okay? Just so we're clear, and it'll be done with it, and we can move on to another side. In the cathode relationship, you put water on the outside so that it seeps into the water on the inside. They make a connection, right? The water connects, so then the cathode moves position. It is the cathode here, but it's now on the outside of the actual clay. So that's where it's going to go. So you can add water to it in any one of these things on any flyback that you want, and it'll do the same thing. Okay. As soon as that dries up, you have now cut the conduit to it. You just sliced it. So you have no way of getting that to the surface. If it doesn't penetrate the clay, it can't get to the surface. Okay. If it can't get to the surface, how is it being a cathode to the system? Okay. You may still get some gases coming off, but you're not getting that cathode relationship, which means that your cathode has to be somewhere else.
See, the thing again, and I'm going to say this until I'm blue in the face, until you close off and stabilize the pressurization to have to be biased toward moving through the clay, you're going to be right. You're not wrong, but you're just not right for the right reason. It's and I'm dead ass about that. You're
okay, go ahead.
Everything that you said is correct, which is why my solution to the problem was to stop 100% forever and always the atmospheric pressure differential as a factor in the cathodic reaction. Okay, because that is exactly the problem. Why is water going to wick in to this with the charge when the charge is kind of diffused and running off to the sides, and you can probably see some kind of pseudo meniscal effect if you were to actually measure that at the edge of the plate. Okay, because you have this positive energy that's probably in a diffuse state running off the side of the plate that's going to pull it up ever so minusculely on the side of the plate, and that is all the difference that it takes between sucking it up the clay and keeping the cathodic relationship and the gas flow to keep the sustenance of it, okay, and not. So as long as that cathode is open, you will be right 100% of the time. But you don't want to be right, because guess what? Being right keeps this exactly where it is. That's it. It keeps it exactly where it is, because this is the equilibrium of the atmospheric pressures and the differential between that and the membrane permeation. And these are the calculations that I've specifically told you and Sean that we need the calculations on, and we need to close the system, because it will be this, because that's what the atmosphere dictates. That's what the temperatures dictate, the permeability dictates. And again, you're right. And I agree with every word you said, but that doesn't help this. That's what you want to do away from. So, yep. I'm fired up today, apparently. I'm just naysaying.
Hey, you're on fire.
I'm just naysaying everybody. That's it.
Well, let's say hi to Sean in the chat. Sean, thank you for joining us today, brother. I appreciate it.
Live from a lake somewhere in Illinois. Sean Calderon, everybody. Yeah, give it up.
His own private lake.
Amen, brother.
Oh, Sean, you're so awesome. Oh, man. Yeah. No, I think there's more to this. I think something that's a controlled water that allows it to come in just a little bit each time. I just want to see if it grows a little bit. That's kind of the next thing. I just want to see if we get a little growth. What the change in it when it does grow. You know what I mean? Does it change any relationship that's going on? Then you can get into, do I want a semi-vacuum on it? Just a little bit to see if it changes the pressures in it. Then add a little bit more and see what you get. You know what I mean? Just kind of scale and then just look at it at each stage. Because I think once you compress this, it'll pull out a lot more. That's for sure.
Okay. Well, now you're right. Okay. But here's what is that Bernie again?
It's still an hour before I board, so
you get pinched at TSA, bro.
Nah, I'm good. Got my beer and everything. I'm beer approved.
Nice, man. Oh, okay. You're pre-approved now. You didn't have to get rid of your metas before.
I consumed it all in the last 3 weeks, so I'm good.
Amen. All right, what I'm about to say is going to break minds, including yours, and you'll know exactly where I'm going from. Nathan, you're right about the vacuum and the expansion, but here's the thing, okay? By closing off the cathode, you've created a vacuum. You already had a vacuum.
Oh, I know you're right with that. I know.
I know that. It wasn't a heavy vacuum, though.
Hold tight. No. This compound.
There's ways to
compound. Okay. By closing off the cathode, okay, you create a pressure differential immediately, okay, where there's a low pressure zone in the cathode, high pressure zone on the anode side, and it's regulated by that of the membrane that is the clay. Okay, and that becomes the relationship. Now your draw becomes out. You always had a vacuum, even in the open. Hold on, Bernie, 1 second. You always had a vacuum, even in the open system, because of the clay. Okay, the clay is what allows for the plasma of the hydrogen without an explosive event. Okay, you already had and synthesized the vacuum environment because of the pressure differentials that exist within the porous structure of the ceramic. Now, by closing off the cathodic side, you have a low pressure zone and a high pressure zone, a positive zone and a negative zone, and you have a pull relationship. All it does is feed through the membrane, which is why the permeation rate and the absorption capability, like the density levels, drying it out totally, super saturating it, figuring out what the difference is, figuring out exactly where this reacts at the proper moisture level, okay, and what the rate is to keep up with it, what the rate of growth is based on the electron stripping of the hydrogen that's ate up by the anode, knowing what that relationship is, doing the surface area measurements, creating a geometry to seal off the bottom cathodic membrane to actually meet that exact criteria to meet the equilibrium. Okay, you already have it in a vacuum, even though it's an atmosphere, and that's the point. That's what makes it beautiful. You don't need to put it in a pipe and suck the air out. You don't have to do it. You don't have to put inert gas in it. You don't have to do it. It already exists based on the differentials that have been created simply by sealing off the cathode and then knowing the measurements to do the math to be able to then realize exactly what you need for the equilibrium state to be reached. That's it. And this is coming from a guy who doesn't know shit, according to some fucking people. Okay.
And what
but
you just said, what you said perfectly explains what I'm doing, only I'm doing it in heavier, denser water that is the same vacuum, the same supersaturation, and it also dissolves gases, so you have that in there as well. Plus, on top of that, I manipulate by having double anodes and double cathodes and taking them out and then putting them into neutral solutions. And then I'll force 2 anodes or 2 cathodes that are in the higher decayed states of the transmutational levels of Sir Isaac Newton of the anode and the cathode. And then when you connect 2 of them, you create a super vacuum differential because one is forced to then turn from the anode into a cathode. And that's where you get the real magic happening.
Now,
Nice.
now I could see that. I could see that being okay, but you need more vectors in order for that to work in this system, and that doesn't exist currently. Yeah, because you don't have that flow, and in this particular case, because of the membrane, okay, the membrane would fuck that all up very badly. Okay, because the membrane is an insulator.
The membrane is what the bottom is, and that you can connect it to an additional one, an additional jar, and then that creates an additional membrane, and it gets so much more advanced. But I'm gonna shut up and let you explain it because
we could. So I mean, the whole idea is that you're so right, but it's already there, so you don't actually need to exploit it any further. Now, if you threw it further in a vacuum, first of all, at that point, you would create a massive offset of the saturation of the membrane. You got to remember that the membrane is the critical aspect of this. Or else you might as well just create it the way that everybody else does, which is in a vacuum, under a laminar condition. On the surface.
And it's manipulating between freezing and boiling, that when you have those 2 differentials that you're really able to manipulate things, supersaturate and so forth.
Well, listen, when it comes down time to actually getting on top of the prototype that is the phase 2 proper, like, you know, at that point we'll be consulting on that. But I personally believe, and I'm not saying 100% certainty, I'm certainly not, but I believe that everything that I said is correct.
I know it is from my own experiments, and just like everything you described is exactly what I'm seeing happening.
So Nathan, you're right. There is a cessation of the cathodic relationship, but that's not what you want. Like, that's not what you want.
Maybe.
Experimentation, try it and find out, and eventually we get there.
Well,
hold on. Let me ask a question. Not to Nathan, to Bernie. In an anode cathode relationship, when you're dealing with electron stripping, does the anode require, in forms of stability, an electron feed?
It will self-establish it once you have one initial catalytic trigger.
Right. So it'll self-establish. So once the self-organization has taken place and the stability has been achieved.
Oh, it takes a while. So it's like you just need a little trigger, and then the reaction will go on for days, if not months.
Well, that's in your okay. So that's in your context. What I'm asking, right? That's in your context. But in context of RAV, if there's an electron stripping event, does the anode require an electron feed in order to maintain the negative charge on the inside?
It creates its own, but you have to connect the anode and cathode, right, with 2 wires above the water, so then they have the flow to do it. And it'll take the charge out of the air, I guess, is how it does it.
Oh wait, but we're already doing that. We're just doing it by the permeable surface. Okay, that's actually, it's actually happening here. It's just not happening in the way that, not in the sense that you think it said I did. In
I get it.
words. You know? All right, we've clarified that.
That's awesome, because it's like we're doing 2 completely different things, but we're finding and explaining the same aspects of it, and that just
The wire,
confirms
the wire above the water in this case is simply the permeability of the membrane.
Didn't I tell you guys that before, that it's all the same thing? We're just changing a few little items, and that screws up people's brains.
Oh, it's absolutely the same thing. This is why I asked the question.
Yeah, they call it 50 different things. It's all the same damn thing. It's still an anode-cathode relationship in the end. That's really it. I mean, it's really simple to understand once you understand that. You call it 500 names if you want. It's all the same thing. The nature makes it very simple for you.
Where it gets more advanced in the real tweaking is when you're adding in extra electrodes into your original 1 and 2 anode cathode relationship, and then creating new differentials and additional circuitry through the flows. And that's how you're able to get additional reactions of transmutation that wouldn't normally happen, specifically in the hydrogen breakdown and buildups between anode and cathode.
Okay,
All right.
so hold on. No, I gotta say this real quick. Let's look at the picture. You see the one little baby dot? Okay. If there was a second one outside of that, you would get your reaction the same way in this. If it could grow big enough to get a second one out there, you would get your reaction when you start to transmutate everything. Okay. I think you'll start to get like what, helium is the next one up. And
Yes, sir.
Start to build out the next gas and the next gas from that. As soon as that little ball arrives, I think that's its whole purpose, is because when you see it and it's laid out in a different form, when they show it real shiny, then you start to see where the actual flow of energy is. And I don't think it's in this
And
one.
it's as soon as the plasma turns into a full bright light, full white is when the transmutations start to happen.
So that little satellite in this particular case, because of the fractional size differential that exists, it's ineffective at this time. Okay, but Nathan and I have talked about it, and this is Ashton Forbes all day. Okay, when you configure this the way that I proposed, okay, which is a different setup, which is isolating the cathode and having a center clay pipe in the middle of it, through a choke. So there's a reservoir that goes around the end, right? Sealed off. And then you have the anode centrically. Then you get the immediate spiralytic force. We've seen that before, but not using a cathode as the hit point, but rather just using coils, right, inductive coils around the center to create the spiralytic vortex, right? Now, once you're able to do that and you're able to do it and it starts zoning out, technically speaking, because it's a circle, you should be getting at least 2 to 3 orbs forming on that particular surface based on the zoning. 2 to 3 because they're an interval of 6, which is directly relevant to a circle. Okay, and mind you that even though it's got some depth to it, it's still kind of a plane for the purposes of this discussion, and that the relationship of 45 degrees between the center of the circle and the outer sphere is a potentially critical attribute to not only inducing an or like more than one sphere forming, but also an orbital vector between them in which they build a relationship. Now, what happens when two orbs build a relationship is they fall into an equilibrium. When the third orb creates, and this is why I actually believe what Ashton Forbes has to say. Okay, when the third orb creates, and they're in a chase, what you end up getting is a coalescence. Okay, that ultimately the same as you see the collapse event occur. You know, like shit, I had the example before, and now like there's a video that literally shows the collapse event, right? But that's what you need is the 3 points in order to create the magnetic vectors. Okay, when it's rotating, it's not okay, but when it's spiralytic, it is, and it's that third orb or that spiralytic vector that causes the magnetism. And once that magnetism increases to a certain point, the same as the orb formation in the first place, where it collapses into the orbs collapse into themselves into the central point. And as I've well discussed, as far as my theory as to why they pulse in the first place, it's correct in saying what we've been saying all along about a compression expansion event through cavitational forces. Okay. But what the fuck does that mean? Well, when you're looking at the fact that this thing is actually tethered to the third dimension, but moving in and out of the third dimension like that is the mechanism of the flash as it moves past the central axis point. That's why the luminescence of the sphere itself does not match the luminescence of the environment. And that's why it flashes. So they collapse and then whoop, things or no things. What's the difference? Then you have your little floating thing that we know is there, but we can't really see, but it's a lens thing, but like it's there, but it's not, right? Well, what do you think that whoops to? It whoops to those. That's where the boop goes. Is the dark thing. The dark thing that doesn't change no matter how much it pulses or how much brighter it gets. That emits from itself and sucks back into itself upon creation and collapse. Craziness.
Hey, Bernie, I want to get your opinion on this real quick.
Yep.
Let me see if I got the right word. We got a worm effect. Look at the bottom right. It pops in and out of existence.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's a total EVO. That's wild. Look at that. What? That's cool. Look for transmutations on what it hits.
So here's the thing about the first of all, we figured this one out, but without going back into that, it doesn't share properties with the plasma based on the photo analysis. Okay.
Really?
It actually shares similarity and relationship with the environment.
Oh, okay.
But what it is plasma.
This is wild stuff, Joe.
But it acts like matter.
It's temporary matter. Wow.
It has shadows on it. It dims with the ambient environment and not the light. It has no luminescence whatsoever. It has no color whatsoever either. It's helical, which made it easy to identify what it was, which was cool. Which also told us the mechanism of the satellite, which was cool. This is proven science because one thing shows the other, and all are indicative of the proof of what we're saying it is, and not to the contrary, because these things simply could not occur if that's not where it was. And that's it. Like, We'll prove
Well
it
done,
later,
sir.
but we need better testing. We need better measures.
That's amazing. And wow, we like very much. Joe, you are not the community idiot, you savage.
I am the community idiot, yo. I maintain that
See,
wholeheartedly,
you're
and I'm
just like
proud of
me.
it.
You're just like me. You like to come off as stupid, so then people don't expect genius every day from you, right? But eventually it gets out.
That's flattering, buddy. I appreciate that. But yeah, no, I mean, listen, I just make this shit up as I go along. I've been saying that from day one.
Don't we
You know,
all? Because we're just
I
learning
got
and seeing.
insulted today saying that I was a fake, literally word for word. But there's mild inherent truth in that. It's not that I'm a fake. It's not that I'm a fake. It's that I figure it out as I go along.
Oh,
So
love
you
it.
know,
Right,
if
and
you,
part of figuring it out as we go along is sometimes we make mistakes because we're just trying to figure it out and trying to interpret what we are seeing from experimental results.
the thing about me, man, is like, and I say this is I do some research and I read some stuff, and it's not like I don't, but I'm very unfamiliar with what other people have to say.
Yeah,
Generally,
the
I
main
just simply
term.
look at the situation at hand and play with it in my head. That's it. That's what I do. So, and then I come up with stuff, and it's like, oh, you know who said that? This guy. It's like, oh, okay, cool, news.
I feel you. I feel you. All right. Well, I should. Hope my phone's gonna die, so I gotta find a charger.
How
Every
long's your
plug-in.
flight, buddy? How long
Yeah,
is it?
I can't. It's only an hour and a half to LA.
Oh, that's it. All right.
Well, yeah, from Albuquerque, and then yeah, and hopefully Julia's there. I gotta have a little battery life left just in case to call her. LAX is a very big airport.
You're gonna be on tonight though.
Yeah, I should be landing just in time to hop on. So I got Wi-Fi at LAX, and then I can just steal Julia's phone and log back in. So we'll see you there.
Amen,
Much love,
brother. Catch you
guys.
then.
How we going?
Right on, brother. Safe flight, brother. Oh man, what on? Oh, I love it, man. Today everybody's fired up. Okay,
Fired
love
up,
it.
man. Yo,
Love
it's
it. Get it on,
so,
man.
I think we're having the third new moon in a month. I think that's what's happening.
Well, you got to go out with a bang, right? You got to the first year. You got to just hammer the point home at the end.
Man, I literally like, and I want to put this out there, and I think it's necessary. Like, there's no ill feeling with me and Gerald whatsoever, or as far as I'm concerned. But I just don't want to be talked to like that. It's not nice. And that's all I'm saying.
That's a fair point. I'm there with
Yep,
you.
I think that was my point all along, and it is what it is.
Nobody
I've
wants to
heard
be talked to
people
like
say
that.
things in the chat and stuff that like I don't agree with, and I see no reason in saying nasty things to them. Like if I don't agree, I'll say their point. Maybe if I see their point, I'll even say, "Hey, I see it that way, but consider this," and then that's it. Like move on. Like who the hell am I? No high and mighty, you know.
Yep. Nope. I'm there with you, man.
So, but like I think that I want to publicly say that, it's no hard feelings, but just don't treat me like that. Not nice. You wouldn't say that to my face.
No.
You wouldn't. Trust me.
I don't like personal jabs. Just talk about the science. We're good. Like we disagreed today. We're just fine.
Yep.
Love it. Oh man. Yeah, I'm there with you, man. I get that a lot. Okay, I get the same people talking down to me all the time, like I didn't read something, or didn't know something, or whatever. Like I'm the village idiot about the whole situation.
Welcome to the club.
Yeah, and I'm the one doing the test. And it's like, hey, you're the village idiot, but you're doing the test, so you must not know anything. Oh yeah, yeah, dude. I just put the hot side up my ass. That's what I do. That's what I do in testing. You know what I mean? I see if I can urinate it out. Yeah, you got me pegged, buddy. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. And like you got to remember, we're people outside of this too. I try to give you the most genuine version of myself on this that you could possibly get via YouTube. And I follow every single person that is regularly in our chat, and I know who you guys are as far as the stuff you input and whatnot like that. And I love that. But you got to remember something too, there's always more to the picture than meets the eye. And there's a lot being met to the eye as far as the things that Nathan and I discuss, you know?
Yeah.
But like there's things about myself that like high strangeness stuff that is like not me being fucking weird and insane, like witnessed events and things that have happened, etc. and such, that if you knew the half of it, you'd be like, oh, you know, oh, yeah, there's got to be something a little bit more to this, right? And it, you know, like I don't like talking about myself that way, but like I've told Nathan a story recently, you know, and you know what, for the purposes of this, just to expose myself for something that's just a little bit crazy. But you know, like 2 weeks ago, there was this guy while I was outside barbecuing who, yeah, right. This is crazy.
Yeah.
There was a guy that was outside while I was barbecuing, apparently, and he was like riding down this hill across from where I live. It's like a really steep hill, and he was flying down this hill on his bike. And out of nowhere, he just jerked his handlebars and just flipped over his handlebars and landed on his head. And I like what felt like an eternity. You know, like I was like contemplating, I was like, yo, shit, you see that? Oh my God. Oh my, yo, that guy smoked his head. What the fuck? And then I'm sitting there like, okay, well, wait, do something about it. Thank you. So I like go over there and I like do the regular thing that you would do. Check on him. Oh, wait, he's out cold. But like, you know, what I do for a living and stuff, like I sometimes you know a little too much about things that you ought to not have business practicing. But regardless, I'm sitting there assessing him, realize that he is like Glasgow coma scale, like 1 or 2 ish, you know? And I'm like, yeah, this is bad. He had no shirt on, sweaty, etc. And just end up flipping him around, putting his legs up, try to keep him out of shock. And it went on for a long time. He was unconscious for a very long time. And I finally, his friend came down and I was like, hey man, call 911, you know, like call the paramedics. But
Yeah.
I live in like the middle of nowhere, man. Like it's not the middle of nowhere, but everything around here is at a different pace. Let's put it that way. Long and short, they call, but now he's been unconscious for like 5 or 6 minutes. And he's doing like the snore breathing and stuff. And I just know what that means. And I'm like, this is bad. So we're trying to wake him up, trying everything, pinching him, smacking him around, calling his name, yelling his name, grabbing his hair, the whole 9 yards. Nothing would get this guy up. And, you know, finally I like made the conscious decision, which was kind of not something I was hoping to do. You know, and I told everybody just like, hey, give me a second, back up though. You know, when I went and I put my hand on the top of his head and put my other hand on top of his solar plexus over his sternum. And I sat there and chilled out and I energy dumped him. All right. I energy dumped him and it went on for like maybe 10 seconds, or that's my best guess, to the point where my hands were in full blown shaking resonance, so high resonant that it was like a blur. And then he basically acted like he was hit with adrenaline. Except here was the thing about this when he popped out was that he wasn't okay. He wasn't okay. You know, like he didn't know where he was. His eyes were rolling around in his head. You know, he was not okay.
The brain's still scrambled.
Yeah, and paramedics came and stuff, and they did the same sort of thing that I did, except professionally and properly, as far as like figuring out what the situation was, and realized that he was not in a good way. And then they were very, very curious as to how he was woken up in the first place, not understanding why he was even semi-conscious. Because in their opinion, he should not have been semi-conscious. So people witnessed this, what happened. And by the way, yeah, that was a conversation. That was a conversation.
Oh, I bet.
And you know, I tried to like tell them the best I could. Basically told them that I stimulated his RAS system. And when they asked me what I used, I was like, nothing. They're like, so you pinched him? I was like, no. You know, and you know, they looked at me like I had 10 heads, and I was like, okay, doesn't matter. Just please go. Well, he was in such bad condition despite being semi-conscious and like losing blood pressure situation where it was critical. You got to get airlifted to the hospital.
Yeah.
But I woke them up, and they were very, very, very confused as to how that happened. And I felt very, very, very unwell after that event. Okay. Because I gave him a lot of what I had, what I took in, and a lot of what I had. And I was like unwell for it.
You think there was a swap of energy a little bit, or like you took out the bad and gave him the good?
There was there was none of that. That's a healthy way of doing it. That's the normal way of doing it, etc. But like, no, not in this case. This was like a wake the fuck up.
Oh.
You're getting it. I gave him the paddles without giving him the paddles, you know, and it was a crazy situation. And again, I paid for it. Like I spent my energy in that way. I was not well that whole entire rest of the night. My hands were burned for days. Burned. Totally white in the center. Totally white in the center. Bear this in mind. When you think there's no connection, realize that my palms were totally white in the center, totally burned in a ring right around it. So, yeah, I need proper Reiki training. Yeah, well, you know what? When somebody's in that condition, it's no longer Reiki. You know,
no, I get you. Yeah,
it's no longer Reiki. He got the paddles, you know, and I had a blister. I had a blister right by my thumb. Think about how hot it has to be to give yourself a blister. Well, I did that just by maintaining my nervous system, directing energy and resonance in my body. So
that's crazy.
Again, you know, like it's just that amount and you know, that amount of control and whatnot, you know, that it requires. Tell Ashton that you know, he should put the videos up that he saw. We know he saw them. We have the ticket. We have the receipts. We have the receipts.
I actually got to see all the videos if you wanted them, man. They were all there.
They've always been his to show because since we've been showing this is the tech. So
that'd be interesting to see how he ties it together, though, because usually he comes up with some, you know what I mean, papers by some physicists, stuff like that. I always like that aspect. He always finds a way to tie it together. It's kind of cool.
I always have praised him for exactly that. He finds stuff that like I just don't have the care or patience to dig for.
No, I'm there with you. I got a lot of things going on in my life. I don't have time to dig for it. I love the fact
right. You know, and like, I mean, again, this is not some kind of pat, but it's like, you know, why read the paper when as long as I'm seeing it, I can fathom, then I will, you know, and that's sort of what it is. That's half the fun of it. It feels very validating when you find out that there's a paper that coincides with your thought. You know, it doesn't matter that you didn't come up with it. You know, nobody's the first one to come up with anything.
Dude, I just feel like there's a lot of that going on, man. There's a lot of that going on lately. They're for whatever reason, man, minds must think alike, or we're catching some of theirs, or whatever it is. You know what I mean? There's a lot of coalescing of thought going on and how things are being seen.
Well, resonance. You say it all the time, and we've talked about it many times. Once something is in resonance and it enters into beyond our state, that information is there to attain forever. Okay, it's there to attain forever. You know, it's just a matter of accessing that same exact nodal point through that specific resonance. Now, the more people that you have falling into that same exact direct resonance, where do you think that the Akashic records lie? It's all about achieving that universal resonance in order to have the access to the vastness of the information that's stored therewith. Those are all at higher frequencies than most people, I should say, right? Most people are like born with and or exist with. Those are higher frequency levels.
That's cool.
Yeah, man. This is why but if you're connected, this is why the people that are all connected are all coming out with the same stuff at the same time. Sometimes we're like, oh, look at that, they're watching us, whatever. Yeah, sometimes it just comes from the same place.
That's what I was saying.
You know?
Yeah, I wasn't saying because of us. No, I'm gonna go get Indian style, man, and give them some more information. Zap that stuff in their brains, man. Get it to
That's
work
it.
out.
Now,
man.
I drew a correlation, and some people might not want to hear this, but I'll put it out there anyway.
Go for it.
When I was talking about the dimensionality of the RAV, right? As I said to Nathan, you know, the idea of the upper dimensionality tends to be the fact that it's a drain. Okay, but that drain always leads to the same ocean, right? So no matter how small the drain, if the drain's there and you could find your way through the drain, you end up in the ocean. And that's the point. Okay. So when RAV is dipping it in and out of this situation, like I've described, and that's the mechanism of the pulsation, etc., um, that means and implies that there's an access point. Now, when you do meditation and so on, and you bring all your things into coherence, which that's specifically stated in our members discussion. So for shameless plug for those of you not members, it is probably worth a few dollars to watch that video, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, you get your brain, your heart, your breath, your solar plexus. You get all of your chakras more or less in line, in resonance, in octaves, okay, with this, and then that gives you an access point. Now, if you could slip the access point, you go through the tunnel, but it's a great expanse at the end. So you go through the tunnel, and then all of a sudden, it's a massive expanse. It's the tallest ceiling you've ever conceived. You know, even if you've stood under the stars in Montana, it's way taller. You know, and that is the kind of subjective experience, so to speak, of that particular event. But it brings into question, right? Like, that means if it's that small and all you got to do is slip out and then you have it all, right? It doesn't really matter how big necessarily any one reaction is, as long as it's showing the traits of the effect, then it's doing it. You could actually probably extract almost unlimited off of just by virtue of having that effect, because once you create the cavity, right? Like I've said before, now at this point, you know, you're pushing out this other dimension, and within where my hands are now is plank. Okay. Plank. Outside of hands, not plank, aka fourth dimension. Plank, not plank. Okay. When it's pushed out, it exists. How pushed out it is deterministic of the flow because of the diffusion rate. Okay. And the compression. It all makes sense when you start to logically think about it, right? But once you realize that you have like this little way out and then you go, well, then you're out. But what does that mean? Well, that's where it all comes from. Because guess what? Time, distance, doesn't matter. Well, what is energy? Well, the equations all have to do with a flow rate, an amount that could be accumulated over a certain amount of time. But what happens when time's no longer a factor? Well, then you just have access to it all at one time in one place. Get it?
So I got a question for you, Joe.
Sure.
Is it the putting your body in resonance gives you access to it? Okay. But coming out of it and you're out of that resonance, you tend to forget things quickly. Like when you wake up from a dream, for instance, you have the image in your head and then like 2 minutes later it's gone. Does it work like that, or does it work like you got it and then you have it forever?
Yes and no, because a trained mind that accesses these points that you're describing is not in a sleep state. Okay. Sleep state could access it, but the phenomena that you described because of the shutdown of your left brain, okay, is prominent in that case, which is what causes you not to act. But what happens when you put your left brain rather to sleep, okay, but also stimulate it into a state of activity. Okay, so it's physically asleep, but it's also in a state of activity. And then on the other side, you have free reign. Well, all of a sudden, your suppressed subconscious, leaches right in and is allowed to expand. Now, it's that access point that your left brain then uses to access. Now, here's the weird thing about it. Sometimes you come out, okay, full knowing.
Okay.
Okay. And remembering. Other times, and more often than not, all of what's attained is given to your subconscious. But now here's the thing about it, is that when you have that type of entrainment, your subconscious is not locked away like it is in a normal circumstance. So if you've gone through your processes and you have actual access, whether limited sometimes or otherwise, right? Access to your subconscious, then you could extrapolate all this information. Now, sometimes what will end up happening is you go and you do these practices, you actually gain information. You don't feel like you came out of it with that much, but then you sleep on it. And what happens during your sleep modes? Well, the same thing, except because there's a defragmentation process that's occurring. Okay, that reorganization of the information will actually take some of the stuff from your subconscious and actually give it to you. Now, the weird thing is this quantum connection that occurs once you have the single thought. Once you have the single thought that connects the experience, the information comes pouring through that wire. Okay, so all of a sudden the train of thought is established and the information becomes abundant coming from that connection that you've made. So once you pull it out a little and have that thought, it actually just dumps. That's just like, that's my experience of how it works, and it's very kind of strange, but that's the best way I could describe it. I have highly neurological ways of describing this, but I think it's irrelevant. But everything that kind of is the process that I'm describing is actually supported by neuroscience.
Nice.
And the CIA.
Nice. What's up, Papa Bear?
Hey, Papa, what's up, brother?
Oh man. Super
Spin them discs,
interesting.
brother. Spin them discs.
Yeah, I love it, man. When you get a bunch of information in your head, like you're looking at something, couldn't figure it out, and then all of a sudden you stop everything that's going on around you, and you just fall into a zone, man. And then all of a sudden everything pops in there, and it starts to figure itself out, and you're just following it along. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I had that happen the other night, man. So kind of a different way to test things. I'm always putting the my coil in the center, man, running everything around it. And I just thought, why? Why would I do that? I'll just put it on the outside. I'll put a center point in there, and then I'll trigger it. And then as it goes through the circular motion, it also goes towards the center. And now it's all bouncing around. I should have my answer then. I don't need to keep it in the center, turn it off, and hope it goes to the right frequency. Why bother? Just trigger the whole thing in motion. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So
by the way, whenever you have a coherent system, and I don't know where this is coming from. This is probably something else, kind of just chiming in on me. But whenever you have a coherent system and something is, working in phenomenal equilibrium and efficiency. Okay, if you break that system, the entanglement still exists. Okay, so when, for instance, and I think this is a great example, and this is so hard to think about. Oh my God. When the RAV is turned off, when it's in a hyperstable state, it goes away as far as our perspective is concerned, but it doesn't. It doesn't. It's actually right on the other side of whatever that is. Right on the other side of that membrane, of that veil, of that whatever you want to consider.
they're saying the fourth dimensional wall is right there. It's behind it.
So here's the thing. When you reinitiate the reaction in the same configuration, you bring it into the same resonance, you're actually calling back the same reaction that already was kind of there in the first place. So once it builds that stability, it's only going to continue in that stability unless it's induced otherwise. And and again, it'll go away. It saves charge states. That's why I'm reluctant to want to bring this up given the apparent controversy that I heard of and didn't know, but like thunderstorm generator, all right, like it didn't work, right? Like all the way, but they said that it induced a charge state and it holds that charge, right? But there's no measurable charge on the off system. But when you start the system back up, it induces that charge state again because you're creating the same conditions in which it was originally established. By creating those same conditions that were originally established, you're actually opening back up that portal, so to speak, for all that stuff that went on the other side of it to come back. Now, it's not indefinite. Like everything else, it has a half-life or whatever, like it's got a certain duration. But the idea here is that after a certain while, you actually don't need the exact mechanism as long as the same conditions are available to open up the state enough. You open up the state enough, it comes back.
Okay. Yeah, I got something interesting to show you. Sean sent me something, and I got another interesting one. So let's.
Can you hold that thought for 1 second? I have to excuse myself for like 1 minute.
No, go ahead. I'm going to put on something real quick while you do that.
All right,
go
cool.
ahead. Yeah, that's wild looking. It's like geometry building out, man. It's just so cool looking. Huh. Interesting. All right, real quick. Got another one. Hey, Sean, I can't see that very well. You got different frequencies going on each one of them? Sorry, Joe. We're just turning on Sean's video, and he's showing us this.
Yeah.
It shows the 3 frequencies you pick it up. So he's got 3 different resonances going on in the spinning plasma. So hold on. We got 3 there. Okay. So we said there was a center point. Okay. In the center. We saw 2 more rings in the green. Right? So you had an in-between ring and then the outside ring of the green. I don't know if this is what he's showing, though. You know what I mean? Or if it's further out from that, but I bet you he gets more probes in there. You find more frequencies. I'm trying to look at the numbers at the bottom, but I can't see them all the way. Play the whole thing. Okay. So when it has water in it, it's building out. You've got a distortion going on. Let's see if that cleans up as soon as he builds the RAV. Right there. Oh, tell me you show it. Did it build it?
Yep.
Oh, did you see that?
Well, you knew
Okay.
once it went quiet that it was built.
No, he see that? It's all fuzzy. It's not built yet, so it's not even clean frequency yet.
Yep.
But as soon as
There
you
it
do it,
is.
look how clean that is.
Yeah, because it's stable and it's mildly ever so slightly and perfectly out of phase, that will keep that going. And that's the point, is the bump, 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 bump.
Oh,
It's in that proper proportion and sequence.
okay. So I think they're all three different sizes. They're different amplitudes. Look at that.
They are.
So
Yeah.
yeah, they're building out all different ones. Oh, that's so cool. All right,
Well,
let's play.
if you think about this, that is literally a wall. That's a wall. What you're
Yeah.
looking at. So, what do you need to hold something in or keep something out? A wall. What do you see when you have this thing? A wall.
Oh, hold on. Look at the size of the ball in the center, man. Look at that. Sean's balls got really big.
Yep.
You see the green one right there? Yeah, that thing's massive looking.
You know, the thing about this is that I don't know exactly what the measurements are, and it's actually irrelevant. And I'm going to say that for the reasons that I've already kind of said.
He
But
said it's the same frequency, different amplitudes. Sorry, go ahead.
the perceived, not measurable. Okay, which is why this kind of science is so hard. The perceived light emission from that, okay, is brighter than a 100-watt light bulb. Okay. But what I say here is look at the ambient environment, and I'll keep on saying this. Does that look like a 100 plus watt light bulb is 360 degrees illuminating that area? The answer is a hard no.
Hmm.
It's because what you see from the emission, okay, is probably not measurable by device. Okay, for a lot of reasons, and I guess I'll go into that another time, but not measurable by a device except for its ambience. And what you see is not relative in the environment to what you see as far as the luminosity of the orb. And you see the flash, and again, that flash is the decompression event, which I've discussed, and that flash again is still not relative
Oh,
to the brightness.
okay, Joe, real quick. We have a couple things going on here. One, you got the lasers that looks like going through it again. Okay. The second thing is not only are we building out the fourth dimension, is what you're calling it. Look right behind it. Now on the underneath it, okay, like 90 degrees to it, you have it building out, and you can see each one of the lines as it builds it out.
Yeah, you could see that because of the bit rate of the sensor. It's portioning it. But that doesn't mean that that's not accurate. You know what I mean? Like there's like it's more zoned and compressed than a pure diffusion.
Now I'm just pointing out the shapes so that you can look at them and tell me what they are, Joe, because you're better at the camera thing than I am.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is an overexposure event right now, what you're looking at, because of the light emission from the orb itself, not the ambient environment, which is why you get all that blowout. Okay, that is a lens effect purely. So you have a convex lens, okay, convex lens, and that convex lens is going to refract that center spot into those rings. But again, it should be more diffuse than that. At when you have a high megapixel bitrate camera, like the sensor should be more attuned to that. And you still see it there too. So even when you back it up and the diffusion of the light emission to the aperture is a much different ratio, you're still getting the light zoning, like you said, because it is happening. It's not happening though to the degree that it's showing, but it is happening.
Okay, hold on. The rab is small piece of red clay, 3 drops of water on the top, 10 drops of water on the bottom. Okay, so he's got this thing to 10 millimeters, so it's definitely bigger than it was. Okay. How did he get there? So, Sean, if you don't mind answering, what steps made this thing bigger? Because we were curious about it. We're talking, having a conversation about it. You could probably answer it right now because we definitely got a size difference.
That's just in a dish, right? No magnetism induced.
Oh, I think he's got the magnet around it. No, I think I see the magnet around it because he's got that line. Only when the
I don't think
magnet's
so.
there do we see that line that comes across here that looks like the beam.
Yeah,
It's only when he has it in the magnet. It doesn't
only
do
in
it.
the magnet, right?
Yeah, it doesn't do
How's
the other
that
way.
for a Casimir effect, huh?
Yeah. Compression right there. You see it.
It's always
Oh.
transverse to the primary axis too.
Look at that. It ate it. Hold on. Like you were showing before, it was eating it. Wow.
Yeah, with these videos, and I'm gonna say this live just so
You said no magnet.
I'm acknowledging it.
Go ahead.
Under no exception must 100% of the time be shot on a tripod. And multiple angles would be great, but 100% of the time from a tripod, unfortunately, like, although I could see past a lot of the motion situation, like I could tell what is and isn't, it takes a lot of work and brain power to fucking process that out, and then on top of that, it for anybody looking at a paper, for instance, these cannot be variables, like, and that's sort of what it boils down to. So that's one thing that we
You
need
want
to
a
do.
stationary camera on a tripod while you're on it.
There's absolutely no cause or reason why the angle should be moving. That's the job for more than one lens, and that's a variable that has to go away, because it I've had to have conversations with multiple people explaining how this wasn't a lens effect, entirely
No, I
captured
get it.
because of a lens effect and not a lens effect because of the motion. So yeah, we'll figure all this stuff out. It's all coming.
Nice. Sean says changing the size of the clay in Hotel California. Okay. Yeah. No, I agree with the same camera angle every time. See what changes. Always one on this right here while it's going, so they're in sequence together. So you get a nice clean oscilloscope reading as it's going. You can see things fluctuate. You can see how it goes. I agree with that.
Oh yeah, it's beautiful. That's art, man.
Oh yeah, you can see it much better right here. Yeah, he's got 3 different probes on there, man. That's cool.
That little device that he built was absolutely spectacular. Very, very cool. It does exactly what it needs to do. The one thing that I think is that often, like, it aside from the readings, you need to read in between the readings too, right? So there's this other thing that is constantly there, and it's part of the separation event, and it's part of the little spirit thing that floats above it. It's part of it all. Okay. And these are the in-between parts, and the parts that you don't see on the readings. But they're present. And where are they present? They're present in the spaces in between. So the analysis is going to have to not only consist of the data analysis, but also the anti-data analysis. And what I mean by that is the same thing as what they mean in bullshit physics when they say antimatter. It's what is it? Well, it's matter on the other side. It's it's the other thing that, it's matter, but it's not. It's the inverse of, right? And that's exactly things that we're going to have to be looking at here too. Is the spaces in between, because what is not there and not measurable is present if you look for the right things. And I just don't know what those things are yet. So we're going to have to keep on exploring that.
Right on. I'm good for that.
Yeah, man.
All right, give me a second. We got another video coming in. That one. Look at that. It's just wild looking.
Oh, yeah. Very cool.
It's like it's rotating on a rotisserie. Huh.
That's undeniable motion if I've ever seen it. Whatever you do, though, just don't mind the pulsing vortex on the left side.
Oh, man. Yeah, it looks like a laser. I don't know what's going on there, though. We got some different states going on.
Well, I'm pretty sure those LEDs are running probably in a pseudo infrared spectrum that we're not seeing too. So we're seeing the red, but they're putting out wavelengths that we're not seeing either.
Yeah. That's super weird. Super fascinating, though. Love it.
I love it. That's cool. What's the medium that's projecting onto?
I don't know. That looks like
That smoke or steam? What is
cloth or something.
Cloth? Oh, okay, cloth.
That's what's behind it. I have no idea. You know what I mean? How it's getting the angle, because I can see the laser coming from the right. At least I hope I can.
It's super funny how easy it is in cases like this, like without, like, I'm not looking at it super close, how it is to be tricked into thinking that density and dimension, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like density and dimension are not the same thing, but visually appear to be. And that's the brain. You got to overcome your own senses a lot of the times, and that's always a consideration of mine.
Yeah, man. I'll throw these up on the members thing, man. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's rad. I'm going to be taking some time to look at that.
Yeah, everybody can check it out. Have some fun. Pause it. Do what you need to do. Yeah, love that kind of stuff, man. Thank you very much, Society of High Sciences. SOS out there rocking the world, man. So, right here. Society of High Sciences sent that to me. He sent me both the red ones.
HS for short, as I call them, because that's just a whole lot of words.
Oh, yeah.
High Sciences, man, HS.
Sean was calling them SOS.
Yeah, that makes sense too.
Huh. Oh, man. All right, Joe, it's getting late, man. It's been 2 hours, 33 minutes, and we already blew everything up, man. So
we've been cooking this one.
Yeah.
One more video, Sean says. Hold on. We can't disappoint. We can't disappoint them.
Yeah, I got to give Sean his due. All right. I'm waiting, Sean. It hasn't popped up yet.
All right. I'm sure it's coming. It's a video. It'll take a sec.
Not yet. Huh. Photon harp. That's what he calls his little invention, the photon harp. He'll have to, next time he's on, show us that whole thing, because he was showing the parts of it, how he wanted to do it, and then he did it.
Yeah. He had showed me that device. And I kind of got what he was trying to get out of it, but I never seen it in that sort of light before, right? That's what it is. Never seen it in that light. It looks cool. It looks like something that you'd fire into outer space, sort of like a satellite. Or you know what it actually looks like? It's kind of like one of those Milwaukee LED telescopic work lights. Where it like pulls out and then it goes like that.
Yeah. Oh man. All right. Let me see if it's back there yet. Not yet. Oh, you might be cutting down the file. Got a slow upload speed. It's all right, man. We're all good. We'll hang out for you, man.
Yep.
Yeah.
Dude's in the middle of the wilderness. I gotta tell him to, his 5G antenna looks like a tree. It's decorated like a tree. It's got a little interference going on with it. Yeah, it's
man.
I don't know how I feel about those things. Like, I mean, I get it. Yeah, it looks less like shit than a regular 5G antenna, but at the end of the day, like, it kind of still looks like shit, and it just looks like a really cheap Christmas tree. You have ever seen those?
They're trying to hide the fact of what they're doing. You know what I mean?
Oh man, what was the movie that I saw recently? It was oh yeah, that's right. The new Naked Gun, right? I saw the new Naked Gun, and the main premise of the movie was that like the bad guy, he had this frequency weapon that basically turned everybody into a violent shitbag. So he would just like flip the switch, the frequency would go on, and then everybody would start murdering each other.
Oh my god, dude!
Except those that like knew, so they were like, nah, 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 nah. You know what I mean? It's Naked Gun, for Christ's sake. But yeah, that was the deal. They just literally induced them into a state of violence, and yeah, it's crazy.
Oh
It's a great movie. Yeah. Sometimes we do get drifted, but that's the fun in it for us. We're friends here, on and off air, and the excitement of it, and considering everybody in the chat like friends too, like it goes that way sometimes.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's not often that we disagree, but
hey, it happens. Whatever.
Oh yeah, no, it's the least of my worries. This is if you don't disagree, that means that you're doing it wrong.
Yeah, because you got something wrong in the process. Huh?
Yeah, no, nothing goes that smoothly. That's not how it goes.
Man, that's
all right, so he's got his harp on top of it. Yep. You could see the pulse. That gives you an indication as to its spin rate right there.
Look at that X coming out of there. It says pure photon to voltage energy. Oh, thank you, Sean.
Yeah, no, beyond, man. Awesome experiment. And the fact that we're seeing the pulse and it's measurable, okay, that's going to be what's extracted right off the bat. That's exactly what's going to be extracted.
I
mean,
can't see
listen,
where the voltage reading is on this thing.
no. All right. I mean, this is maybe it's a silly idea, but I don't think it is. You know, we need a resource of, you know, like 6 or 7, like last generation phones with high quality cameras. You know, like top tier phones, last generation, used, whatever. Just dump the storage, use it for camera storage, exclusively. You know, get it cheap, $100 a piece or something less. You know, and then just set up a multitude of cameras so we could have all the vantage points without the movement. We don't miss anything. It's from multiple angles. You can catch the monitors, hooked up to Wi-Fi.
They sell a kit that's 4K and it has 5 different cameras to it. I think it's specifically for recording like YouTube videos and stuff, and
Right.
that would be great for this.
Now, I mean, the only thing that, and I'd have to research it a little bit more just to know the specifics, but realistically, anything pointed at this, you know, aperture and frame rate is massive. So,
Okay.
you know, you want something that you could adjust at least the ISO, the aperture, and the frame rate, and the frame rate has to be kind of high in order to be able to get the type of footage that doesn't miss a thing. Right? Or it's going to miss things because these things happen so fast. But, you know, like that's going to be the next, it's got to be the next level of improvement, whatever, however means it goes, whatever the cost effective route is to get it effective, you know? And that's that.
Oh, look at that one, Joe.
Yeah.
No. Look where it is. Look where that object is and where the line and the beam end up. That's
I
kind of
mean,
neat.
it is. I mean, in this particular instance, I just don't know if that's a lens effect or not. I don't know that it is. I don't know. I don't know. What I don't know about it is the fact that it's off center and then it's at a 45-degree angle to the axis, which is exactly what the vectoring would look. That was my exact suspect vectoring.
It looks like Saturn. It looks like a sphere in the center and rings.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah. Like I want to argue it like what it is, but at the same time, it goes right in line with what I proposed. So why am I arguing it? I don't know.
Well, I don't know.
Well,
I'm just
wait,
showing it
whoa,
to you.
whoa, no, back that up.
Right
What the
here?
hell was that on the bottom left, man? Back that up. That was crazy. Whatever the deal was right there, yo, there was like some kind of green floaty thing. Yeah, okay. So we have the light flash down there. Now check out where it goes.
Yeah, I told you where that object was.
Yeah, well, oh, that was what you were talking. I didn't see that. Yo, move that.
Yeah, it looks like a little UFO. Hold on. I told you it looks like Saturn because there's a
Yo,
little green dot.
okay, that's a lens flare down there from up there. That geometry doesn't match up. Not with the convex lens. Nope. Sorry. What is it doing though? Follows that stream. All right, you're gonna have to send Sean. Send me that video. I need to.
Right there, look. It looks like a Saturn.
I see. But
you got to remember, he's got this thing bigger than he had it last time too. So
I get it.
we
But
got 2
what is
beams
that
coming
lens
out of
flare
it.
doing all the way down there, or whatever it is?
Why does he have 2 beams coming out of it? You know what I mean? There's something more going on here. You see it when he goes up there. Ooh, look at the top. Is that a second little round thing? See the beams coming out of it right before
I
it
mean,
hits the
listen,
big one?
man. I see exactly what you're seeing. I just can't say anything like That's what it looks like. But I just don't know without seeing from there or something. Because it does bulge out every so often. And, I don't know if that's one of those events or if that's separate.
Well, who
It's
knows?
an amazing
Man?
video, man. I'm going to tear this thing to pieces.
You gotta, I think there's a programs out there that just hit slow motion, like Da Vinci Resolve.
Yeah.
With slow mo this thing. That's what I use for my editing. I should slow it down and then copy that. You know what I mean? And put it out there so we can get each frame.
We should, we can, and we oughta. But again, the frame rate, the aperture, these are things that we need to consider. It's it's time.
No, I
Because
agree
we
with
could
you.
answer that question.
With the videos that we have, we should slow them down and see what's there. And then as he progresses with a different camera, we'll figure that out. But this is awesome.
Now, one thing that I'm noticing about those two beams actually coming out of there is that they're angularly disproportionate. Okay. What I mean is that one is actually going outward and inward, and the other one is going inward and outward at opposite vectors, which again is strange for a convex lens.
Your bottom left has a rainbow in it.
Yes, it does. Right underneath the rim.
Yeah, look at that.
Whatever that is. Yep.
Yeah, one's
it's
going
a
underneath
pure.
it, one's over. The one on the left's going over. The one on the right is going under it.
Yep, and that's full. That's a full spectrum prismatic rainbow, and it's in exact sequence as you would expect.
Huh.
Which means that the what Bernie was saying before about the state of the reaction, saying that when you get it white, right? So when you split a white light beam, you get a rainbow.
Look at the upper right.
I'm going to take a screenshot.
Right next to the ball, right behind it, there's another one building out of just color.
Hold on. Yo, the whole thing has a prismatic light effect to it. The top right one also, like you said, just right above the sphere.
Yeah, right above the sphere.
The opposite one doesn't appear, but I would need to manipulate the levels to tell what's going on exactly. The emanation thing is centric, superimposed on top of the sphere itself, slightly down and to the left, though. I could calculate the measurements off of the photo to see if that's proportional to the center of the frame. It might be. But
I was wondering that when we're looking at that fourth dimensional image, if we took the volume of the sphere and we used the calculation, the radius calculation of it, and we just figured it out, what number would they be? Would it be the same thing like in the thunderstorm generator, how it builds out? You know what I mean? What's the numbers for each one of them? Because there's a mathematical formula there.
I agree. I mean, if those particular spires are telling us anything, that is not relative to the convexivity of the lens angle, it's telling us what differential fraction exists based on the degrees of the acute and obtuse angles present at their space of interaction, right? Mm-hmm. So that would be relative to your vectoring, if that's the case. But even if it is a lens flash, which I suppose that it is, that still doesn't mean that it's not relative to those things, especially when you take into account polarization filters that are automatically most of the time over camera lenses. There's usually some kind of polarization going on. That's how they get crystal clear images.
Okay, check this out, Joe. I'm going to tap this once. Watch. You get the center, and it's coming right out of it. Boom.
Oh, hold on. Let me see the movement relative to that.
The what?
The movement of the camera relative to it migrating.
Well, there you see on the upper left.
Flash. Out. I didn't see the motion. I saw the flash.
I don't know, man.
But it's not reacting with that flash, man. It is non-responsive. So this thing is expanding and blasting light out of it. And this thing is like, I'm here. That's what I am.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, this one's gonna have to get torn apart, man.
Yep. This is going to be a lot of analysis and stuff that I do on this. That's great. We need to get it on a tripod though.
Look at the
Same
bottom left.
experiment tripod.
So cool. Sean, you
Awesome.
are the man, dude.
You are, man.
Good job,
Nice
brother.
talk, Sean. Thank you. Trust me, I'm gonna have a ball with that, and you're gonna be bothered by me.
Huh.
So.
Right on, guys. Hey, I want to tell everybody thank you, man. We had an awesome show today. I really do appreciate everybody coming in, man, and watching this with us. With that said, man, have yourselves a great night.
Peace and love.
The old man Bill. The old man Bill. The old man Bill. The old man Bill. The old man builds is broken in the head. People not seeing reality has put them in the red. Where conscious and spirituality been stricken from the norm and replaced with the ignorance of basic magnetic form. The geometry of God keeps running through his head. That's what makes old man builds broken in the head. The old man builds. The old man builds. Spheres of destiny are spinning in his mind, making him travel back and forth in time, battling the establishment for just a little recognition. Has him forcing the world to understand his premonition. That world will have all the technology in the end, even if it means his life will fail to extend. The old man builds. The old man builds. The old man builds. The old man builds. Fears of destiny are spinning in his mind, making him travel back and forth in time, battling the establishment for just a little recognition. Has him forcing the world to understand his premonition. That world will have all the technology in the end, even if it means his life will fail to extend. The old man builds. The old man builds. The old man builds. The old man builds. Of destiny are spinning in his mind, making him travel back and forth in time, battling the establishment for just a little recognition. Has him forcing the world to understand his premonition. That world will have all the technology in the end, even if it means his life will fail to extend. The old man builds.
Hey, guys, real quick, I just want to give you a heads up. Mike Faraday's show is starting here in another hour. If you guys want to head over to his channel, maybe you can all check that out. Have a great night.